Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is episode 4 of Brimstone by Callie Hart, where we are covering chapters 21 through 28. So please, oh please, listen closely to our spoiler warning for these Brimstone episodes. Spoilers for all of Brimstone. Yes, even up to the last sentence of the book. We may also reference any of the bonus chapters from Quicksilver or Brimstone.
Elroy is back, and homeboy has quite the secret. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then please, oh please, go finish the book. We will be here when you're done.
Next, we Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
Do you want to know something shocking, Lexi? What? We don't have a sex scene today.
It's okay, we do next episode.
But don't think for one moment that that's not going to make this episode rated R. So please be mindful of those little listening ears.
Additionally, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events.
Lexi and I are stoked to be part of the Fantasy Fangirls live stream on Monday, December 29th. But there's a twist to this charity live stream. We are going to be playing a game of TTRPG, like a tabletop role-playing game. Think Dungeons and Dragons, as we do the stream. And if you donate, you might just be able to influence the way the game itself plays out. It's going to be so much fun. All proceeds go to Reading is Fundamental.
And on March 6th through 8th in Dallas, Texas, we will be podcast partners at Dreamers and Readers Festival.
Then on April 8th, we are partnering with the Denver Nuggets and Rebecca Yaros for a very special Fourth Wing themed basketball night at Ball Arena.
Plus, we have a very exciting something on April 19th in Seattle. More details coming very soon on that. And we will be back at the Dragon Gauntlet in Boyne City, Michigan on September 11th through 12th.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to most of these events, including a promo code for Dreamers and Readers. Also, in case you missed it, welcome Fantasy Fan Fellas to the Fantasy Fangirls Media Network.
Our very own executive producer Hayden and Book Talk star Stephen Walker just wrapped up season 1 of their new podcast, where they dive deep into Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn.
Hayden is the expert in all Sanderson's Cosmere and has already read the Mistborn series.
But Stephen has not. So each episode only includes spoilers up to the chapters covered, as Hayden takes Stephen and many readers through their first time reading Mistborn.
All episodes are available on the Fantasy Fan Fellas podcast feed, so be sure to give them a follow. Link is in the show notes.
Last thing before we jump into Brimstone episode 4. If you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and so much more, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 membership tiers that you can join. Number 1, the Hive Mind, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, a book club, often featuring the authors themselves for a live Q&A, community events, promo codes for live events, plus 20% off and access to exclusive merch. That is all for $6 a month. Or you can join the Spice Watchers, which includes everything from the Hive Mind, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, and special voting privileges. Be on the lookout very soon. That is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have the Feral Fans, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers, plus more behind the scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, private Discord channel, and your name shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
Join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fanclub. The link is also in the show notes. And really and truly, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into a dream come true. It is all because of you, and we appreciate you so, so much.
And now, it is time to unlock our Alchemy shield, and I can only imagine Power Rangers going like, doo-doo! Power Rangers, assemble!
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round as we sing Loris' ballad to discuss what happens in chapters 21 through 28 of Brimstone. Oh my gosh, this is a jam-packed episode. Take it away, Nicole.
Chapter 21. Waking up in Zilvaren, things don't quite add up. The boys both had injuries that needed quite the cover-up. But this morning, Kingfisher is in perfect condition. Why couldn't Carrion have his own sexy healing expedition? Carrion's bedroom is covered in old illustrations, showing the longing he's had for his own fallen nation. Up goes the defense from Carrion so quickly, but Kingfisher knows what it's like to miss a place so dearly. Chapter 22. Damn, that dream couldn't have been hotter. Someone gets Saeris a bath of cold water. Don't worry, Saeris. Lorith has a plan to work out the extra magic before she blows up the land. Away in the library, Saeris admires the paper birds, while Lorith and Foley exchange some harsh words. We'll deal with that later. Saeris' hands have started to glow. Hey, Foley, care to share with the class all that you know? As it turns out, Saeris is far from ready to seal her runes and make her magic more steady. Saeris is ready to fight and get her way, but a little bird decided on violence today. Chapter 23. Hayden is here, and he's not happy to see Kingfisher and Carrion walking around carefree. Come on, Hayden, use your thinker. You fell for Madra's lies, hook, line, and sinker. I'm sorry, Carrion, you had to find out this way. Losing Gracia has left him in pure dismay. The boys have journeyed to the third, where they find posters of lies. Taking it as a challenge, Kingfisher uses his shadows to comply. 1, 2, plus 40 more. The square is now littered with guardians and gore. With a horde of guardians gone, it's time to get the fuck out. Using his shadows, Kingfisher causes a city-wide blackout. Chapter 24. The Blood Court's forge is unlike any other, but the Quicksilver is still sassy, as Saeris discovers. This time, as she works with the metal in hand, she gives it a memory as it demands. The Hazrax appears, and it drops some hot tea about bargains and blood magic and alchemy. But the Hazrax has more insight to glean. It wants to watch her in exchange for a yearly favor for the queen. Well, ouch! Her hand! Saeris sprints down the hall. She's one sneeze away from blowing up more than just the wall. Chapter 25. As they race through the streets of the third in the days, with it all in the dark, this ward has to be such a fucking maze. Hayden knows just where to go on through, but the Forge Master is ready. Let the chaos ensue! Well, Elroy's known all along. From Carrion's identity to Saeris' powers so strong. Deep below his workshop, a secret cavern lies, with the largest Quicksilver pool ever surmised. Chapter 26. In the bowels of the palace, Saeris greets the Quicksilver in stride. It's now or never, or this realm is fried. She's one step in, there's no going back now, as the Quicksilver covers her body all the way to her eyebrows. It's time for the test. Will she pass or will she fail? How far will she go to stop the darkness and prevail? Saeris is willing to risk all but her mate, and Quicksilver approves her choices with no debate. Chapter 27. Elroy knows far too much shit for someone who doesn't seem to care about it one bit. His family was tasked with the knowledge of the Fae and refining rogue Quicksilver metal day by day. But this Quicksilver pool is a blessing in disguise. No need to plan a path through the palace. This is a major win, you guys. And what perfect timing. Now the Quicksilver flows back to his mate, and enraged Kingfisher goes. Chapter 28. One rune is sealed, but Saeris finds the Quicksilver still awake. Who the fuck is trying to enter through this liquid silver gate? Orias is here at Belicon's behest. He wants to strike a deal that Saeris detests. Bring Everlane and kill Kingfisher to start the exchange, and Belicon will protect Saeris from the rot. How deranged. Obviously, Saeris says no, fuck that. Orias just shrugs and tells his soldiers to attack. Their arrows are easy to deflect away, but the null blades they pull out are pure foul play. But guess who has perfect timing? Out of the Quicksilver, Kingfisher comes climbing. Together they end this crew, and Fisher is ready to torture Orias slow and steady. It's Saeris in the end who says to let him go, to go tell Belicon and let them reap what they sow. Dun dun dun!
Woohoo! That was a really good one.
Thank you. And I say thank you. Brooke, thank you.
It is time to don our relics and step through the Quicksilver to explore key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing theories, and so much more. Reminder that we will start this episode in Zilvaren, and then the second half will be Ammontraíeth while our main characters are still split up. So, we're still in Zilvaren, specifically safe and sound in Carrion's home. Waking up after his sexy dream rendezvous with Saeris, Kingfisher finds himself fully healed. Yes, his badly broken hand is miraculously all all better, as well as the gash in his leg where the big stinger got him. And, he is reeking of sex. All while poor Carrion is absolutely covered in itchy welts from the scorpion stings, and he certainly does not smell like sex and a good time. Fisher even still has the tattoo of a dagger on his leg that Saeris gave him from the cottage sexapades.
Quick fit watch, because as they're going back into the open streets of Zilvaren today, they need to blend in, especially because they're going to the third where there's a lot more guardians. Kingfisher's lack of a tan is already not helping them. So sorry, Kingfisher, you gotta wear off-white today. I love that he's like, no, I will not. I don't, like, he doesn't even know the last time that he wore anything but black or dark green. But that would be hot. Not like hot, like, ooh, hot, like, ow, oh my God, the sun's rays are absorbing in the color, hot in Zilvaren. So I'm so sorry, Kingfisher. You cannot risk depleting your magic for a new dark outfit. I can't even picture him in off-white. That is so weird.
Yeah. We get a peek into Carrion's home and especially what is in his bedroom. Yes, a bed large enough for 3 people, but far more importantly, he has sheets of paper hanging up on the walls. And on these papers are drawings of Carrion's homeworld and people. So real quickly, I'm very curious what his bed companions, because he has had quite a few of them, what they have thought of all these sketches of Fae, but I'll skim over that. Fisher recognizes drawings of Carrion's mother, Amelia Dianthus, the former queen of the Uvelian Fae, and of his father, Ruick Dianthus, as well as other members of the Fae that Fisher doesn't know, drawn in exacting detail. Landscapes that show pieces of Uvelia as well, not just the Winter Palace, but also the whole realm.
Lexi, I have been waiting 4 episodes to talk about this. So I think that this is a huge Easter egg that Carrion is actually an oracle. Let me explain my reasoning. Immediately, when Kingfisher sees the drawings, he equates them to his mother and the oracle drawings that she did in her journals. Last book, Carrion was mighty intrigued about Adina's journal and that she was, the one that she was drawing in. This is when Saeris came through the gate. He was flitting through the book and he was like, hey, do you want to see this? And she was like, no. And he was just continuing to flit through it. Is that because he recognized some of the similarities between the two of them? We also get a few mentions of the people that he drew. Amelia Dianthus, with a heart-shaped face, is done with surprising precision. It sounds a lot like Adina drawing Saeris. And then his father, but he's only drawing half of his face. I do wonder if this is actually him seeing a picture of his father, like on a coin, in the book that he was given through Finran.
That's what I was thinking.
But I digress. That does not align with this theory, so hold please. Carrion also draws members of the Fae that Fisher doesn't even recognize. He draws fire sprites, dragons, all sorts of creatures, also tropical coasts along the beaches of Lycia. Remember, Carrion has a book called The Fae Creatures of the Galorian Mountains. That is further north, not Lycia.
That is a really good point. I had not caught that. Though I do think the book would have had a map of the whole realm. And I would also say probably have to include some from the Winter Palace too, because he draws that in exacting details. Yeah, you're right. The subject matter doesn't specifically match up in a way that you would expect everything that he has access to here would be in that book. But that is an assumption as well. Remember the note that we believe Finran wrote on the first page. Quote, never forget, monsters thrive best in the dark. Commit all you read here to memory. Prepare for war. So we are seeing Carrion drawing warriors, Fae with bows slung across their backs or mighty swords held over their heads. So committing what he reads to memory by then drawing and letting this world he's been detached from come to life. And he is preparing for war. I love how there's that mention of the illustrations of dragons and fire sprites, because those are both creatures of Brimstone, which is necessary to prepare for war against this rot.
So that's what I'm saying. What if this is actually a future battle that he's drawing? He's drawing dragons. He's drawing these creatures we don't even know of yet. Maybe we might meet them in book 3. He's drawing fire sprites who, like you're saying, are going to be huge when it comes to destroying the rot. So what if he is drawing literally a battle that has yet to happen because he's an oracle? My final point is Kingfisher sees a drawing of Amelia, but something looks off about her. Her eyes are too far apart and the end of her nose is upturned. So this caused me to go through both books just to see if there was anyone else who matched this type of description. And you know who I found? I found someone. Someone with Carrion's red hair. Someone with blue eyes like we see in the Dianthus line. And an upturned nose. It is Ishabel. So, Ishabel would not have been in one of these books that Finran sent back from Evelia. How would he have seen her? If he was an oracle and he saw Ishabel and drew her long before he met her. What if?
Okay, it
has legs.
I love the part
this
about the Ishabel note. I do think, yes, this theory has some legs. So let me ask you this question as well. Do you feel like there is any other hint of Carrion being an oracle anywhere else in the book?
I have yet to deep dive the rest of this book. Okay. So I will let you know on episode 7.
Okay, because I do think that this can be explained away by him looking at these drawings and all of this stuff, by him looking in the book and really making it come alive in a new way for himself. That was definitely my takeaway. If I had to make a bet right now, I would probably bet against it.
That's unsurprising, Lexi. That's unsurprising. You would say no in a bet?
Anyway, Carrion's understandably self-conscious of Fisher seeing this peek into Carrion's yearning for his home world. He always tries to have this front where it's like, oh, like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to be heir. Like, oh, like, I just happen to be in this world. But we see here how much he's longed for it for centuries and centuries. And I'm not surprised that he's a little defensive because, after all, Fisher tends to assume the worst in Carrion, like we discussed a lot last episode and how we discussed all about his mate last book. Because this is probably what Carrion tells himself in his darkest moments, that he's stupid and obsessive for longing for home like this, that it shows signs of weakness. So he typically puts up that wall where he's always so easygoing and unfazed. But behind the scenes, Carrion just wants to belong somewhere.
Sweet Carrion. The best part is that Kingfisher is not thinking these thoughts at all. Before Gilthry, Kingfisher was one to dream and hope very often. Then he was taken into Malcolm's maze and he ached for his family and his friends and his home for a long time. And after a while, much of that light and that spark within him was snuffed out to the point where he couldn't even bring himself to think about those friends, family, and home. It was overshadowed completely by this hopelessness and closing himself off to the rest of the world. So looking around here at Carrion's drawings, Kingfisher recognizes a similarity between the Dianthus heir and himself. Someone who longs for people and places that are calling him home. And that hope, that passion, that wanting, he doesn't want Carrion to lose it like he did. This is one of the first times I think Kingfisher really sees that Carrion, I'll call it, is a realistic option for the Evelian Fae, where he actually takes Carrion seriously because he sees that there's this want for his homeland deep down. And deeper down than even that, Carrion is willing to admit to wanting to be, like that you're saying, that belonging, even though he puts on the front that he doesn't give a shit.
This scene in chapter 21 is one of those quiet moments that Callie told us about in our pre-Brimstone interview, where yes, it might be quiet, but there are so many layers within it. Like you said, this part really feels like a turning point for Carrion, where we see how much he is hurting and longing for home, and how much more there truly is to Carrion that we're beginning to truly see in this book. I just love his arc so much in Brimstone, and I think he will really shine in book 3. This was a great bridge book for Carrion, from kind of being like just super silly and Quicksilver to like this big reveal. And now in this one, he's kind of like working through that whole heir reveal. And then in the next book, I think he's really going to claim it for himself. Okay, so task 1 for the Zilvaren boys trip is complete. Task 2 is to get Hayden, who has apparently been in the 2nd ward. I thought it was the 7th ward after Carrion got him situated before he was kidnapped to Evelia last book, and Hayden says how difficult it is to move between the wards. So I'm also curious how he's still seeing Elroy as often as he does, who is quarantined in the 3rd. But anyway, to absolutely no one's surprise, Fisher is unimpressed with this human boy. Hayden is taller than Saeris, which, remember, she is tall for a human, so that means Hayden most definitely is very tall for a human. He has blonde and curly hair, which is a common trait here in Zilvaren. Fisher notes that he keeps his hands in his pockets, which Fisher finds absurd because Hayden clearly has no concern for being attack ready. He's just like nonchalant, like la la la, and Fisher's just like, oh my god, like why is he not in defensive mode? And Fisher can smell only the hint of Hayden's blood connection to Saeris. Fun fact we learn, familial blood smells weak between humans, which was something Fisher forgot, or maybe even didn't ever know because he met so few humans in his youth, which means that there were humans in his lifetime in Yvelia and after the blood curse, as rare as they were in that realm.
Okay, raise your hand if you think it's weird that it's mentioned multiple times through multiple chapters that Hayden and Saeris don't look or act anything alike. Aggressively raises my hand. You're not aggressively raising your hand. Are we? What?
Okay, so it has absolutely crossed my mind. So that is where I put like a little hand raise. But I also do think that there is a different reason for why this is so on the page.
Okay, so I think that this is where we actually do align. Thank God. If anything, this makes me want to triple down on what we said during our Quicksilver coverage, where Saeris was supposed to be born Dianthus, but then Zareth did change it. This is like an actual Zareth gone rogue on the page. In doing so, though, the changes weren't, I'll call it fully altered, meaning that's why there's some similarities, but very, very, very few. Unless Saeris and Hayden had a different father, which isn't out of the question. And if that is the case, I would lean towards Saeris having a Fae father.
Okay, so like you said, we are definitely maybe a little bit more aligned than we thought. I will also say there are other mentions in Brimstone and Quicksilver that there are similarities when you really look between the two siblings. So I take this as further distinguishing the stark difference in these two siblings in every which way, from personalities to values to how they look. And so yes, I am sticking to my Saeris is supposed to be Dianthus theory, but she and Hayden are indeed siblings from the same parents. So it's just like a nice little nod without any bigger repercussions to that, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think that if there was only one mention, but then Kingfisher saying like that the familial smell between humans is much weaker, if it was just like a 1-to-1, I'd be like, okay, cool. But it is like 5 and spread out from multiple chapters. So
but
that's
there's also in those same descriptions, then there's also always something about how they are related too.
I think it's too stark.
I think it is a show don't tell way of distinguishing these two siblings as extremely different in every which way. But Hayden isn't completely unaware, apparently, because he runs off and then tries to sneak up on the two Fae looking for him by almost stabbing Carrion, who I love. But yes, Carrion, you should have more spatial awareness. Like, come on. Hayden just snuck up on you. Because from Hayden's POV, what the fuck is this smuggler doing with the traitor Kingfisher of the Ashen Gate?
Skirt! How do you know who Kingfisher is? What's happening? The gasp we gasped when we read this for the first time. I was like, what does Hayden know? There's a lot more to this guy. Don't worry, he's still knows nothing. Yesterday, after barreling into Zilvaren, causing major damage to the tallest tower, which is being labeled as an explosion, Madra started working, spreading propaganda about this butcher of Zilvaren and his evil deeds, and that he's here only to cause all kinds of ruckus.
All I can think of here is Geralt, the butcher of Blaviken, and how it's such a Geralt kind of Fisher line when he scolds Hayden. It's customary to get to know a male before you judge him, boy.
God, I miss Geralt of Rivia. Oh my God. Madra's lies include sharing how Kingfisher used magic to break into the palace and that he's a political zealot from the south. He then killed a bunch of people, including children, who were about to be pardoned and released from the cells.
Real quickly, do you think anyone has ever been pardoned and released from the cells?
No, absolutely not. And one of those people Hayden believes is Saeris. So he believes that the butcher of Zilvaren, Kingfisher, has killed his sister. Madra turned Saeris into a martyr after she was taken from the third. This also included that Saeris was tattling on those in the third to Madra. I'm Oh, I'm livid for this. Is like, you know, that like petty middle school, high school rumors that you just want to like shake someone. You're like, that's not true. I never did that. This is that on steroids.
Oh, it's going to be so heartbreaking for Saeris once we get to that next episode. We'll go way more into all of that then, but oh.
Who else has been working overtime? That is Madra's artist, who has been drawing pictures of Kingfisher and Carrion to some levels of accuracy.
And here, all I can think of is Flynn Rider's wanted posters and how none of them could get his nose right.
I love Flynn Rider so much. Such an underrated dude.
I don't think he's very underrated.
He's underrated in my heart because he's not number one.
Okay.
And all the people of the Third who, as Kingfisher has put it, want someone to blame for their hardship that is easy for them to put said anger into. They all, as a result, ate up this lie, Hayden included. Here, however, we see that the youngest Fane sibling is fully in the camp of Kingfisher equals evil, Kingfisher equals killed Saeris.
According to Hayden, Madra was in the process of pardoning Saeris and Kingfisher slit her throat. Then the Guardians drug her body through the Third to show everyone what Kingfisher did to her. So of course we're all thinking, oh my god, Madra must have sacrificed a poor girl who looked just like Saeris to make the story believable even to Saeris' own brother. But then we see how big of an Hayden really is. Like, we kind of knew it before, and this is just like, oh my god. Because he didn't actually see this thing that he is extremely convinced of, but he knows that it must be 100% true because, wait for it, Madra handed out drawings of the horror.
This is like when you're on Instagram and you see something absolutely crazy and you believe it as 100% truth, but you don't fact check it. Check your facts, friends. Always.
I'm with Fisher. I don't know whether to laugh or cry here. And it feels very fitting that he literally has to turn away from Hayden and tell Carrion to deal with the boy because he's, quote, too fucking stupid to deal with directly.
This is you.
This is everything I wanted out of Fisher with the Hayden meetup. And no, I have patience. I just save it for my children. But back to those posters the Guardians have been handing out all morning since yesterday's commotion with the Hall of Mirrors and the Bell Tower. Like Nicole was saying, there are wanted posters. On the walls of the Third, these posters show Carrion and Fisher and read, "Danger! Enemies of the Crown! Wanted for unauthorized magic use." I am definitely talking like Dungeon Crawler Carl right now. Excuse me, everybody. Unauthorized magic use, murder, theft, and intent to incite violence. After their offenses, there's also a reminder that harboring criminals is an offense punishable by death, that magic is a disease, and finally, the slogan, "Keep Zilvaren safe." The reward to catch Kingfisher and Carrion, a whole year's supply of water for the household of the person who comes forward with information that leads to their capture. And in a place where water is a very, very sacred and precious resource, that is the biggest possible motivator that they could have.
I will give Madra this. She is one fucking smart dictator. By offering up a reward, giving them the promise of a whole year of water, which is like you're saying, is a whole year of life, that will cause even best friends and neighbors to become enemies. Nothing starts a fight in the streets more than the promise of survival. Nothing is easier to control than people who are wanting to get this reward. Like, she has them changing their focus on looking at who is causing them to suffer, Madra, and instead putting their energy into finding the perpetrators who might just give them a chance for another year of living.
Also, my heart hurts for Carrion here because, like Saeris, this has been his community for so long. Much longer than it's been Saeris' community, 1,000 years. And now he can hear people turning against him, saying that there was always something wrong with that Carrion guy. Even those who don't believe Madra's rants about magic, they are willing to entertain her antics for the reward, like Nicole was saying. Once again, we of course have the Evenlight holiday being brought up. How every Evenlight, Madra gets extra worked up about all this make-believe. So it's my understanding that yes, the Evenlight festival has not happened yet, but shit's going down with it. But I am willing to dramatically die on a hill that shit is going to go down with it in book 3. I know I initially said that for book 2, but now I'm really putting all my eggs in the basket for book 3.
agree. I will die dramatically on that hill with you. I will catch you and then simultaneously fall over right after.
I also believe that even light really does play a significant role in how Madra siphons magic and stores it from the city, and how this even light will have far-reaching consequences with the rot and infected feeders who are coming from Zilvaren. Before Fisher and Carrion can bring Hayden to his sister in a different realm, there is some very sad news for Carrion. Gracia, Carrion's fake grandmother, who was the last of the Swift line, just passed away. She was an elderly human in the Third, whose family for centuries was tasked with hiding the Fae heir. It was her great unknown amount of great-grandmother who protected Carrion right after Fenrir brought him through the Quicksilver 1,000 years ago. Her name was Orlena, and she was a slave of Madra's, and she escaped with baby Carrion. From then on, through the generations, the Swift women have watched over Carrion and protected his secret of being the Dianthus heir, waiting for the Quicksilver to open back up so he could finally return to his homeland. Gracia in particular was the most no-nonsense person you'll ever meet. She was an engineer, go women in STEM, and was charged with ensuring new buildings in the Third were built on stable foundations. Carrion has known her all her life, and for decades, Gracia has been the one person in his entire life who knew the truth about him. They were family, and also sadly, this is the inevitable that happens more than once a century for Carrion as he outlives everyone he's ever met before coming to Yuvelia.
There is a woman who is somewhere deep in the desert who is singing a sad, eerie song. And you know who that woman is, Lexi?
The same woman from the Hall of Tears in Ammontraíeth?
The gasping woman! Thank you very much! I agree! You cannot convince me otherwise. There is just this woman who keeps bouncing from hall to hall, to room, to realm, and she is just gasping. She's singing, she's crying, she's wailing. And you know what? She is the unsung hero of this series.
Nicole, I am so glad that you brought up the gasping woman, because we got not a single sliver of mention of a gasping woman in this book. Are you going to concede that bet that the gasping woman from Quicksilver, not only that she was important, but that she knows Saeris is of royal lineage? Because that is another thing we also did not get a hint of in this book.
I don't know if I'm willing to concede it because I just saw what I have to do if I.
What is it? What do you have to do, Nicole?
I would have to wear every single Henry hat and make it flow within the context of what we're saying in said episode.
Oh,
you know
listeners, you hear that?
For the content, for the good of the content, I will concede this bet. You win, big sister.
Yes! Yes!
So you just have to tell me what episode, and you have to bring me all the Henry hats, because I don't have them.
That's right. I do need to give you a lot of Henry hats.
Uh-huh.
Good. I can put them over at your place, and they don't have to live in half of my closet anymore.
So much smaller than yours. No. Anyway, in Zilvaren, it is customary to sit with the dead as they burn on the outskirts of the city for 72 hours straight. And it's been a tradition for centuries.
Oh, and not even Carrion, who has been around for 1,000 years practicing this very tradition, he doesn't know why it's like that.
But Kingfisher does. This is just one more connection between Yuvelia and Zilvaren. In Yuvelia, they sit with their dead as they burn to ensure that they do not rise and return as a feeder. So after 3 days, the possibility of them transitioning ends and they are safe.
It is so fascinating that these traditions span across realms. It makes me wonder about other realms too, though I am starting to think more and more that there was a particularly close link between Zilvaren and Yuvelia, and that is not including Madra and the Triumvirate, something even before that. At Gracia's pyre outside the Third, remember this is the only reason those quarantined in the Third are allowed to leave is to dispose of their dead. Carrion throws his beloved book into the fire, the one he has held onto as his only connection to his homeworld all these centuries in Zilvaren, Fae creatures of the Galarian Mountains. This is so symbolic of Carrion's end here in Zilvaren and being protected and cared for by the Swift women. And it's also marking the beginning of truly being in his realm. He knows the book front to back by heart. He learned what he has to from it, and now it's time to truly live it and embrace it. Gracia has safeguarded the book and Carrion all her life and all the Swift generations before. And now that time of Carrion's life has finally officially come to an end with the Quicksilver opening and with Gracia's death. This is another one of those quiet moments in the book that shows a lot on the page about Carrion's close relationship with death and how he processes grief, and the budding friendship and understanding Fisher feels toward him, because Fisher hugs Carrion. Oh, in a moment that Carrion is trying to be strong, but just truly needs a hug from someone else who is still there for him, reminding him that Gracia and the Swift line may be gone, but Carrion is by no means alone. And Fisher knows how important it is to feel that love and support in order to keep moving on and keeping your head held high, which is exactly what Carrion needs here. A meaningful hug and a good cry, and then he can pick himself back up to keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward to find the hidden silver and stop at another one of Carrion's apartments. While in the tunnels, Kingfisher's Quicksilver is restless. This is the Quicksilver in his mind. It's urging him, this way, this way. When they are moving in the direction his Quicksilver wants, it's happy. But the moment they go off course, it throws a teeny tiny Quicksilver tantrum. We can assume that this is urging Kingfisher towards the Quicksilver pool in Elroy's basement, urging him closer and closer to that discovery. Thanks for being helpful, Quicksilver.
In these tunnels, we see on full display, and Fisher sees too, just how spoiled of a brat Hayden is. Would I also complain about wading through a sewer tunnel that stinks and is infested with rats? Yes, but that is beside the point. Because moving through these tunnels is normal for survivalists like Saeris and Carrion, and even Vorath Shah. But Hayden? Oh no. Saeris has made sure her little brother does not have to live the same way. She has not wanted him to know this side of Zilvaren survival because it's hard and it's gross. And while there's no doubt that is well-meaning from one big sister to another, I totally get it. It has turned Hayden into, as Fisher so eloquently puts it, quote, a petulant, spoiled little shit who hasn't had to deal with hardship a day in his fucking life. Just imagine being Fisher, who has dealt with the horrors that he has in his life and is always doing everything for other people. And that's also something he admires about his mate, too. She is fired despite the oppression she faced all her life. And then there's fucking Hayden here, whining about rats and smell. The best part is how Fisher scares Hayden unconscious.
I can see this so clearly.
Like he actually scares him unconscious.
They almost make it to Carrion's other apartment because, yes, he has multiple, when a flash of gold dances across the shopfront below Carrion's bedroom window. Thank the gods, Madra decided to fit her guardians in the most flashiest metal fit watch and makes it really easy to spot. So grabbing Hayden, Kingfisher and Carrion plan to get out unnoticed, but it's too late. The guardians rush out of the alley that they were hiding in, and they are in a bit of a pickle because, being Fae, Carrion and Kingfisher can easily outrun these weighed down with metal fit watch guardians. But Hayden, sweet Hayden cannot. Hayden is not used to being useful. Shocking! But they take off anyway, sprinting as quick as they can with Hayden in tow, barreling through the streets of the Third. As they're running, the Guardians start shooting at them with iron-tipped arrows, and they're narrowly missing them. The Guardians don't even care that there are civilians everywhere in the Third, as one shot literally meant for Fisher misses and clips a woman in the throat. Not the gasping woman, no! It's not her. Don't worry, guys. She's fine. I take this as twofold. She's living in the hub. Don't worry. I got eyes on her. I take this Guardians not giving a flying fuck about the civilians of the Third as twofold. One, this just shows the attack them at all costs instruction that Madra surely told all of her Guardians. It also just hammers in how little they give a shit about the people of the Third and how they are expendable. And yet they will believe Madra's propaganda even as they are getting shot at in the Third. Wow. Shocking.
All the while, Fisher can hear the Quicksilver continuing to whisper to him, urging him to go in the wrong direction. Again, we will find out that this is the Quicksilver trying to get him to go toward Elroy's secret Quicksilver pool. But for now, this Quicksilver whispering is building up that, whoo, there is Quicksilver here in the Third. What could it mean?
Running away from the Guardians and into the square in the Third, Kingfisher sees a sight that makes his blood boil. A group of 12 12 teenage girls stand in front of two guardians, with already a few of the girls knocked out and limply laying on the back of a horse-drawn cart. And it's Carrion who shares what it is. All of the women who turn 14 are rounded up, sedated, and then 7 out of 10 of them are taken to the palace to be cleansed. Remember how last book Kingfisher had a very, very visceral reaction to this happening to Saeris after they have sex for the first time, because he could not stand the idea that a choice this monumental was taken away from his mate. I love the moment that he sees one of the teenage girls who's like defiantly staring up at the human who's sedating them and spitting in his face, and how it reminds him of Saeris. So TLDR, Kingfisher sees this and is fucking livid. Rightfully so.
So there went his plan to sneakily take these guardians chasing them down, because Fisher is ready to now cause a scene after seeing what Madra's guards are doing to these girls. This corrupt system didn't just take away his mate's ability to have children. It took away her right to choose for herself, and not just her, all the other girls in the ward who are also sterilized. And he's ready to make the corrupt system pay. The second the guardians run into the square after them, Fisher calls every last drop of magic he has. And this time, it does not manifest as shadows only shrouded in darkness. No. This time, Kingfisher makes knives made of shimmering shadow magic itself, going straight at the guardians, and they're dead. Even as the other guardians in the square turn to attack Fisher, he has them dead before they even know what's happening. But again, more and more guardians rush into the square, but Kingfisher kills them each with an ease that just further solidifies how powerful he is. With their efforts on the ground being futile, the guardians take to the rooftops and attempt to shoot Kingfisher down with arrows, but it is still not enough, and uses his shadows to wrap ropes around their arms, ankles, and other parts of their body to pull them off the roofs. When some of the guardians turn to flee, Fisher does not let them. These men treat women like possessions, use them for sex, violating their bodies and stealing their rights, and Fisher is lost to the rage and bloodlust of emotions that these thoughts bring on. By the time Carrion finally snaps Fisher out of his haze, the square is piled high with bodies, the sand soaked in their blood. There's more than 50 guardians dead now, but the fire burning within Fisher is demanding that he claims every last one of Madra's troops for their cruelty against the people of the city.
With Madra's larger army approaching, Kingfisher knows they've gotta hide. And what better way to remain hidden than in complete and total darkness? So reaching inward, Kingfisher is quite surprised that he still has magic. The source may feel so far away, but he feels it ready to immediately answer his call. Calling to his well of magic, Kingfisher unleashes, quote, a tide of glittering black sand and shadow. The shadow that Kingfisher sends out doesn't just cover the street that they're on, or even just the third. It covers the entire fucking city of Zilvaren. And for the first time in history ever, the shining banner of the North falls into complete darkness. This is so cool!
I love the little detail of how Fisher gives Carrion the sight to see in his shadows. Because remember in last episode, Carrion was not able to see his shadows either, and Fisher could see it only with like monochrome.
Yeah.
Now, Fisher says that makes 4 people in existence who can also see through his shadows. I wonder who the others are. Like, I imagine Renthis and Lorith, because that would come in handy with fighting.
Yeah. Maybe Danya? Maybe.
I guess. Like, I don't think that he's given Saeris, at least yet. Maybe it's just an automatic thing,
Maybe.
but anyway, just a fun little fact there. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So I'm actually curious because during this whole action scene, Kingfisher is very surprised that he still has magic left over and that he's able to pull more and more shadows, literally to the point to cause a citywide blackout. I'm guessing this is threefold. One, he's pissed off about seeing the women who are about to go get sterilized, and I guarantee you he's feeding off that anger and that's helping fuel his magic. 2, I do wonder if because they're back to the circle, because they're in a circle, he could be pulling from that circle magic of Zilvaren. But if that is the case, I would bet anything that Madra would feel that drain. And then she would also probably look outside and be like, why is it pitch black outside? I've never seen it like this for the first time ever.
Oh, I love this thinking because I was noticing the same about how Fisher has way more magic than he ever thought he would have here. And it's like this endless well in the city because of all the magic stored up here for the past 1,000 years. So yes, I do think that he is literally tapping into all of that magic that is still here in the city.
I agree. I think it's that. Yes.
To get out of this hot mess of killing 50 plus guardians and sending the city into complete darkness, remember how he was initially trying to be sneaky? Carrion takes initiative and takes them somewhere they will be safe from prying eyes, which also makes the Quicksilver happy because now they are heading in the direction it's been trying to take Fisher. So they enter their new secret hiding spot. And why, hello! Welcome back to the story, Elroy! Yay! Fisher accidentally released the glamour on him and Carrion in the square while he was going crazy with his shadow magic. Now in their original Fae forms again, Fisher is a lot taller, which is a good thing for his entrance into Elroy's forge as the human tries to defend himself from Fisher and hit him over the head, only to hit his shoulder blades instead, which, ow. I cannot express how excited I was when I first read that they are back with Elroy, and oh, so many surprises in store, similar to what we actually did predict back in Quicksilver.
Meet the family continues, because Kingfisher has heard so much about Elroy as this man who was her mentor, as this man who took care of her, and not surprising, he made the deduction that Elroy would be a decent fella to be around. And no, but to be fair, it's hard to like someone right after they just try to cave your back in with a fire iron. I do think it helps that the moment Elroy is like, of course Saeris isn't dead, like she's Saeris. A, he's fighting back against Madra's propaganda, and B, he's commending Saeris for the fighter that she is. It is this moment for Kingfisher to be like, oh, I see it. I see this. I see the connection here. But that doesn't mean that this protective girl dad is happy that she's fallen into it with this man, this Fae warrior skirt.
Yep, Elroy knows about the Fae. He has always known about the Fae. He understood immediately that the shadows must have come from Fisher. And yep, he has also always known about Carrion being a Fae in hiding. He is not surprised whatsoever to see Carrion barge into his forge, now in his full Fae form.
I feel so bad for Carrion here because he's like, you knew this whole time, you knew, and Carrion's he just wanted to belong so badly.
I know. And when Elroy's like, it wouldn't have changed anything, and Carrion's like,
would have.
Beg to differ, yeah, on a emotional, personal level, yes.
So why couldn't Elroy spill the beans that he knew that Carrion was Fae? Because there are rules, damn it! Don't tell anyone about the Fae. Don't talk to Carrion about the Fae. Don't tell anyone about the magic users he's come across. Things like that. Hold the fucking phone, because this implies that there's other Fae, there's other magic users that Elroy has come across, that Elroy knows about.
I wonder if he interacted with some magic users who were part of the rebellion back when Elroy made weapons for them.
Ding, ding, ding. I think you're so on the money there. But where did he hear these rules from and learn them like gospel? He heard them from his father, and then his father heard them from his father. More on that in a moment. It turns out that the Swift line was not the only one charged in handing down information about the Fae.
Here's my big question, one of my big questions. Who charged Elroy's ancestors with collecting the Quicksilver? Orlena Swift took Carrion in because she was right there when Fenrir came through the Quicksilver with him, and he charged her with caring for the baby, like that mind-to-mind speak there. So technically, no one but Fenrir and the Swifts know that Carrion is Fae, that he is even here in this realm. And Elroy even knows about Solus, the god sword stealing the Quicksilver. But if someone told his ancestors that Carrion was Fae, then it would make the most sense that Fenrir escaped Madra's clutches and came up with these rules for Elroy's metal-working ancestors.
Ding, 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 ding. I think it can only be Fenrir. That is the only logical option here.
Like, by what I just said, yeah.
Yes,
no one else knows about Carrion.
No one, yes.
Elroy will mention drawings, like of this Fae god sword, and I assume a lot more about Quicksilver, and I'm betting even alchemists, that could damn him in Saeris, especially when Fisher wonders what in the papers could have damned Saeris, but he has an idea. He never elaborates on that idea or shares it, so I'm just going to assume that he is thinking alchemy at the very least.
Yeah.
or it's another plot line that we will get to in book 3. These papers are not around anymore. Most of them perished in a house fire when Elroy was 15, and then Elroy himself burned all the rest of the evidence 5 years ago when Saeris' power was getting stronger. Elroy knew that she needed him to look after her, and again, those documents were very damning, so he had to get rid of all the evidence. I'm so curious how his ancestors got these papers. I gotta bring it back to whoever set the rules for them. We know Finran likes providing information in books. He made sure Carrion had a book about his heritage, so it wouldn't be out of the question that he would also provide some of these kind of documents too. Just saying.
Yes to all of this. This is fucking amazing. We knew.
Maybe even Adina told him, you need to bring all, like, she sent him a bag to go to Zilvaren, being like, okay, honey, my oracle self is telling you need to bring these and go do this, and then he makes sure that it all happens because he's a good husband.
I was also thinking that, but then I was like, but she also thought that Saeris was Fae, but then like we talked about last book, she knew Saeris was going to be turned Fae. So I think you might be right. I think Adina, this is yet again Puppet Master Adina at work. Oh my God.
But Elroy's like, you know what? It's better just to show you what me and generations of my metalworking family have been tasked with. Behind a rug that hangs on the ceiling like a tapestry is a secret door. Dun dun dun. Kingfisher can feel that there is the tiniest bit of magic cleverly woven to hide it. When Elroy pricks his finger and dabs a drop of blood against the wall, the heavy blocks of sandstone move to reveal a staircase.
Wait, is this blood magic then?
Yes! Not unlike what Adina has with the paper birds.
Oh my God. It's like actually could have been Adina. Literally. Oh my God. Or
not Adina per se, but...
No, but like her working the strings to make Finran do this to then pass along the information to Hoobity Blue.
I will say yes, and this form of blood magic is not uncommon by any means too. So I do think that anybody would be able to, or maybe not anybody, but a powerful fae would be able to do this. But that is the point here. That means that a magic user created this in the first place a long time ago. Not saying it was definitely Finran, because there are lots of other possibilities, but obviously he is the first person I think of to create that key lock who is bestowing this upon the metalworking family, getting this all set up in the forge. Like, it just makes sense to me. And these stairs go on forever, or precisely 1,223 steps, and at the bottom is a super secret basement. These stairs have smooth granite walls instead of sandstone like everywhere else in Zilvaren. It's the kind of structure that is designed to withstand time and all of the shifting sand that sits above it. The cavern at the bottom of the stairs has pillars that hold up an arched ceiling with stacks of discarded pieces of armor, coins, chalices, and trunks that are overflowing with an assortment of metal goods. At the center of this cavern is the largest Quicksilver pool Kingfisher has ever seen. Remember how the Winter Palace has the largest Quicksilver pool that can transport armies? Yeah, that one is smaller than this Quicksilver pool in Elroy's basement. Holy shit. This pool is recessed into the ground with steps leading down to the solid Quicksilver.
For years, every time a piece of metal laced with Quicksilver came into the forge, they, meaning Elroy and his ancestors, refined it and then brought it down here. Until recently, this was all just little teeny tiny pieces of metal. But when Saeris opened the portal by pulling out Solace last book, it turned all of those, little separate pieces into a liquid and they fused into this giant Quicksilver pool. Why on earth would Elroy put himself in this kind of danger, though? Especially given that he was this larger than life rebel fighter, all this kind of stuff with making weapons for the rebels. And then he did a hard pivot 180. And Saeris viewed that as him giving up. Well, we get a little bit of backstory here. Elroy knew that Saeris' power was greater than she could ever have fathomed. Even when she was a young warthog, the tools would rattle on the walls in the forge. So while he knew his family's responsibility was to collect the Quicksilver, he actually stopped doing that because he saw that Saeris needed him, especially after her mother died. And she and Hayden didn't really have anyone else. So he stopped collecting Quicksilver so that she and Hayden could be safe.
Elroy explains that he took Saeris in as his apprentice when she was young so he could keep an eye on her. He had known her mother, he was in love with her, and he would come to their house to fix things and take care of Iris when she got beat up by her clients. What I bet happened was that Elroy sensed Saeris' power back then when he would come to their house, and then he took her in as an apprentice at the forge as soon as she was old enough. Yes, because her mother did not want her to follow in the footsteps like Saeris said back in Quicksilver, but also because Elroy knew Saeris had a lot of magic. Her power was greater than she knew, and she was terrible at hiding it. However, after her mother died, Elroy could not have Saeris at the forge all the time, because if one of the guardians had walked into the forge and felt how strange it was in there when she was around, they would have immediately taken her. That is how outward her magic was, that anybody would have been able to feel it. He knew she needed him in this world because she did not have anyone else to look after her anymore, like Nicole was saying. And that is when Elroy stopped refining the Quicksilver and adding it to his collection. That is when he burned the remaining papers that would damn her and him. He was trying his absolute best to protect her, keep himself sane and alive to be there for her.
We need to talk about why Elroy was tasked with this from his father and his grandfather, and why his whole family line had been tasked with this. Because Elroy mentions, quote, "My father was fond of an afternoon whiskey or 5. It was the only thing that helped with the voices." The second he said the voices, that solidified that Elroy's father was an alchemist, because we know that alchemists used to go mad from the voices. We learned this last book with Saeris. Also, Elroy says that working with Quicksilver only leads to madness and death. Quote, "I saw what it did to my father. Convinced. I am convinced. Madness and yes, full stop." Also, how did Elroy know when something was laced with Quicksilver, though? I was under the impression, based off of last book, that it is only an alchemist who could know, based off of how Saeris mentioned she's able to feel the different vibrations through metal.
Also, that alchemists usually could only feel if something had Quicksilver in it if there was more than 5%.
Yeah.
And Saeris is an anomaly because she can feel even the tiniest little trace of it, way less than 5%.
So that's why I'm saying, is Elroy an alchemist? I think his ancestors are, for sure. But is Elroy one? Because if he's able to feel it, that would lead to him being an alchemist, right?
So I think that you do bring up a really good point. And I do have one gigantic hole to poke in this.
Oh.
Alchemists can turn Quicksilver. They can turn it from solid to liquid. And Elroy clearly cannot do that. And none of his ancestors could either, because they probably would have done that. So I'm going to say, no, they're not alchemists. He and his family don't seem like they can manipulate it or anything. Just hear the Quicksilver and are able to pull it out of the original item it's in. Which in and of itself might be enough to make them go mad. Maybe, and this is what I'm going to go with, they were taught to identify Quicksilver by whoever set these rules for them, and they pass it down generation to generation of metal workers.
How interesting, because I think that they are alchemists, but as we know with Saeris, she didn't know how to turn a liquid into a solid until she was literally forced to do so with the Quicksilver in her hand when Kingfisher put it in there. But also,
well,
we know
that's
that
not necessarily true, because when she drew Solace out, she did turn it then too. Oh,
no,
wait, nobody would have been able to. Wait, okay, no, you're right, because his family would not have been able to turn it or anything like that because Solace was in there. I see. Now, and technically, that would mean that now he could be able to turn it. Yeah.
But also, Saeris is taught how to turn, and she's practiced and practiced and practiced. If she never was practicing those things, she is extremely powerful, so she probably would have, eventually done it on accident. But maybe Elroy and his family are not as powerful as Saeris. They have a lot less of that, like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you need to turn this, or your magic's going to explode or something like that. I think that they definitely are alchemists. They're just not as powerful as Saeris. Because there is no way we have lines like madness and voices without them being alchemists.
I think that there is a middle ground in this situation.
I thought we were so aligned on this. I am shocked right now.
I think that there is a middle ground where they would not be classified as alchemists by any means, but there is almost like that traces of it.
I think that is a safe fucking answer, Lexi. I think that's a safe answer.
I think it is what it is, yes.
Yes, that makes all the sense in the world. No, I think that they are alchemists. I want to ask Callie now.
With all all of these revelations, there is one big takeaway for what to do now with this giant pool of Quicksilver. Yay! No more need to sneak back into the palace and have to access the Quicksilver pool in the Hall of Mirrors. This is a very good thing and a way less risky. Now when they go back to Saeris, they can use this one. Easy peasy. Except Fisher absolutely still plans to break into the palace. He has a queen to kill after all. But you know what? This does make it much more easy with his two companions. They can go through this Quicksilver pool, and that means Fisher is free to go on his own to the palace and finish what he came here to do.
Like we've mentioned for 2 episodes, Kingfisher has this sneaky little secret plan. It is to first go to the palace and kill Madra, finally!
And Fisher is on a mission to figure out if and how she is sending the feeders from Zilvaren to Yvelia, which that was on their to-do list here in Zilvaren, to be fair. And while he's at it, yes, absolutely, he will make sure to end this evil queen and her oppressive reign over Saeris' people.
I'm gonna call Fisher out. His sacrifice rune is showing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not disagreeing with it.
I was gonna say, I think this is a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. Now, luckily, the self-sacrificial plan does not get to take shape because the Quicksilver pool explodes. It splooges.
I was just gonna say splooge. I don't know. You're saying luckily. I was all for Fisher going to the palace for his mission impossible. If anybody can do it, it's Fisher.
Okay, here's what I will say. Yes, I agree. If anyone can do it, it is Fisher. And they have iron-tipped arrows. Fisher is not indestructible with iron-tipped arrows. He just depleted a whole fuck ton of his magic by making the entire city blacked out.
But he also has much more. Like, he could lay low for a little while and then go.
That is extremely true. It's Fisher. He wants to get back to his mate. He would go straight there. He just does not know what he's walking into. So don't get me wrong. Do I think it's smart to get more information? Yes. Do I think that Kingfisher's typical barge in and fuck shit up is maybe not the best plan right now? Yes, they don't know what there are these feeder. There 8 of them killed 114 soldiers. Do you think that there aren't more in the palace? He could.
I don't think that there are more. Okay, we are getting so sidetracked right now.
You don't think there's more?
If there were, they would not be let loose or anything like
what
that.
What if they're being turned?
Then great, he can help figure it out and stop it.
He doesn't have Brimstone with. He doesn't know what kills them.
He could easily be on an information-seeking
That's
journey.
what I'm saying. I'm saying an information-seeking mission is fine. Do you think that he's on information status
I think
right now?
he would take his opportunity to kill Madra. Okay.
Please continue. We are not going to agree on this.
But when the Quicksilver pool awakens 12 hours early, Fisher goes on high alert. Saeris is the only alchemist they know of who could have opened it. And yes, it is indeed her when she is sealing the Quicksilver rune, which we will get to shortly in that part of today's episode. But Fisher cannot think of any good reason his mate would open the Quicksilver early, which must mean only one thing. His girl's in danger! Quick side note, I wonder if in book 3 we are going to have the Quicksilver turn liquid and it was not Saeris, and we will finally learn that there are other alchemists out in this universe. But anyway, scratch the Madra kill plan. Saeris needs Fisher, and this pool could close at any moment, so it's now or never!
Right before they go into the metal pool, Kingfisher says that it looks like they're going to have to leave Elroy. To which the old man says, I also love that he calls him old man. I just think that's so funny.
Especially because he is so much older.
So much older. Oh my God. Elroy says, quote, "Oh, I'm sure I'll be hearing from you soon enough." So my question for you is, do you think we're seeing Elroy again in this trilogy?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, 100% yes. Fisher thinks to himself that Elroy is right because he does plan to come back and kill Madra.
Yeah.
That is still a very big plot line that needs to happen at some point in this trilogy. I am leaning toward Elroy's big contribution to the story is this Quicksilver pool and his family having this job over the generations while the Swifts had theirs. So I don't think that Elroy is going to play like a huge role with, let's say, like the rebels and all that kind of stuff that we were theorizing in Quicksilver. But I do think that he will certainly have a little bit more of a part to play.
I am really excited for that. Not in the way that I was excited for Hayden and Saeris to reunite. I'm stoked because it's like, that's her father figure. I just can't wait.
Yeah. I Worry about Elroy making it out of this series alive.
Same.
I believe we'll learn more about what happened in Zilvaren historically before Madra and within the past 1,000 years of her reign, and Elroy's family's role within all of that. And you know what? I will actually go ahead and say I am still holding out hope that he will aid the rebels or become a leader of the people revolting against Madra when Fisher's focus is taking her down. So like Elroy will kind of be in charge of like the people and his community and rising up, while Fisher really creates that opportunity for all of them to do it in the first place. Because right now that is not even on their radar except for the rebels.
Yeah.
Elroy knows that this all isn't over yet and that it's really just beginning. It's making me wonder again how this is all going to wrap up in one more book of the trilogy. And that's it for our time in Zilvaren for the rest of Brimstone. Let's back up and turn our sights on Ammontraíeth, where Saeris wakes up to find 2 puncture wounds on the inside of her thigh. Would you look at that? The cottage was definitely real, and so is the delicious ache Saeris has from their cottage adventures, and she also smells like sex. Having rested has done wonders for Saeris. In the training room with Lorith, she is quicker today and with, quote, stunningly fast reactions. She is able to predict where Lorith is going to be 3 seconds before he gets there, and she is landing blows, hard ones. She's stronger than she has ever felt before, to the point where by the time these two are done training for the day, it's not just Saeris sweating and sore, Lorith is too. Huzzah for Saeris! She finally slept after becoming half fae, half vampire, and now she is tapping into her new strength and senses after recharging her battery. Now, to our listeners, this is a nice friendly reminder to rest and get our sleep. I know firsthand how hard it can be, trust me, and please prioritize it as you can. I see you, my fellow tired friends.
Well, Saeris slept, so that hopefully means that everyone's gonna be in a good mood, right? Well, not really. Foley is one grumpy motherfucker. But to be honest, he's been shutting himself away for 800 years, so I don't entirely blame him.
I absolutely agree with you, and Saeris will not be wrong in her observation that he wallows in being a victim.
Absolutely, 100%. But just because he agreed to help Saeris with all the alchemy stuff, it doesn't mean he's willing to be nice to her, going as far as to call her weak, naive, and vulnerable. Listen, I know that Foley does not like vampires and therefore has a lot of anger towards them and thus to Saeris. I would have handled this much worse than Saeris if someone said those 3 words to me.
I'll say this. I am very glad that Fisher was not in the room right now because Foley would definitely be out the window again.
But the truth that Saeris sees is that he is afraid underneath all of this hardened Foley exterior. Is he afraid of being around the living? Is he afraid because things are changing from his self-isolation without him being ready, especially because he's found an angry, victimized comfort here in the library and he's convinced himself that this is what he deserves? Is he afraid that he's now tasked with remembering a lot of information about alchemy and it's some powerful shit? Is it D, all of the above?
And he's not exactly impressed with Saeris, an inexperienced former human from another realm where she didn't know anything about magic.
Yes, exactly. No matter what, this is all manifesting in Foley being quite the grumpy mentor, and you know what? I love it! I love a grumpy sunshine trope, even when it's mentor-mentee rather than lovers. I freaking love it. But I also want to point out, this show don't tell that he pulled a bunch of books while she was sleeping. I interpret this that while he was up for a while, or while he wasn't sleeping, it was because he was maybe not excited, but he was passionate about something again, like we talked about last episode. It's this feeling of him having that zest for life, even though he's being this grumpy motherfucker. I'm so happy for him.
It's like he is so excited to meet back in with all of this and whatnot, but he's got Saeris as his mentee, and he's like, oh man, she's not a very good one. She doesn't know anything.
She might have killed my best friend, but like she said, they say that she didn't, but I'm not convinced.
As what is becoming a common occurrence, especially when she's worked up, Saeris's runes begin glowing again on her hand.
After a quick inspection, Foley notices that one rune is specifically inflamed. It is the rune for Quicksilver. And we finally learn what this rune looks like. It is a circle with an arrow bisecting it. And because it's the rune that Saeris has been tapping into the most, it makes sense that it's the most burning of the hottest, which I take to mean as it is the close to, I'll call it bursting. Foley, however, is not surprised that the Quicksilver rune is hurting the most. According to records, it is always the first to awaken.
When examining the rune on Saeris' right hand, Foley is in awe, calling the rune remarkable and the most intricate Alchemiran shield he has ever seen. Even the Hazrax will later agree it is the most complex shield this realm has ever seen. And the Hazrax will state it'll be a formidable weapon, if it doesn't kill her before she can seal it. Which, boy, oh boy, is it right. Later in the book, after Saeris seals the Quicksilver rune, she is able to project out the shield and use it as both a shield and weapon. Against Bellicon, she's able to launch a pulse of energy out of it, obliterating his guards into a fine mist of blood and meat. And then, of course, we'll also see it at play here towards the end of this episode here when Saeris is fighting Bellicon's guards when Orias comes through the Quicksilver. An Alchemiran shield is a rune that solely belongs to the alchemist who seals it. Every alchemist has one, but no two alchemists have the same shield. Think of it kind of like a fingerprint. There might be other shields that are similar, but this one is solely Saeris's. I interpret the shield to be the word for how Saeris' magic gets funneled into or through so she can use it. And I will be honest, it is all a little bit confusing.
Because the shield is pretty painful and probably gonna blow, it's important that she seals this shield/rune ASAP. So Foley pulls an exercise from a book that he pulled for Saeris last night, and the exercise is as such. A failing must open themselves up to the energetic flow of the Quicksilver. It can be quite overwhelming of a sensation, but they should embody the Quicksilver's energy, align themselves both in the mind and the body. This should all be done before they transmute it from a liquid to a solid. After they've successfully done that, they must alter the Quicksilver repeatedly until the skill is as easy as breathing, and they have a good rapport with the Quicksilver. Only once they've mastered it in that way will they be able to, quote, set their affinity for the magic of the Quicksilver, and thus seal the rune. I'm not gonna lie, I would be Saeris in this situation. I'd be like, fuck yeah, I've already, aligned myself with it energetically. I'm able to, transmute it from a liquid to a solid state. I've got a rapport with the motherfucker, so I'm gonna go ahead and just seal the rune.
I agree with you because I would also think that initially. And then once when Foley explained it to me, then it'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Oh, I would be like, you don't know me?
Yes. And please don't take it personally when I'm about to get upset with Saeris here in a second.
If you compare me to one of your toddlers, Lexi, I will log off this call.
I'm not comparing anybody to toddlers at this time. Anyway, not so fast, Saeris Fane. Foley explains the huge difference between what Saeris has been doing and what will really make her ready. Shockingly, turns out Saeris is very impatient and more than happy to wrangle her magic, make the Quicksilver submit, because what's the difference when she gets the results? All the difference, Saeris. It makes all the difference. She really hates having to learn something new. She just wants to cut corners and expedite. And because she has no patience and she doesn't like being a beginner at something.
Okay, I feel personally victimized by you right now. Excuse you.
This was all written in here before you said that you were like that.
I did not hear you just denying that.
Bottom line is, that is not how things work with magic. You must respect the magic, Saeris. The only way to truly master the magic is to be partners with it, work with the Quicksilver, accept and respect that it is a give and take instead of trying to bend it to her will. She should know oppression never turns out well for the oppressed. They will want to rise up against, like what the rebels are trying to do in Zilvaren. Bottom line, Saeris, you are a beginner magic user. So yes, you need to learn the basic foundations of your craft to keep building on your skills and abilities. Stop acting like you're too good for this, especially when you have been craving information on alchemy for a book and a half. Now you are getting everything you need and you're like, oh, I don't like this.
Because it means it going backwards. I get it.
I know you do.
Which brings us to the first mention of the Tria Prima. The Tria Prima is comprised of the same basis: salt, Quicksilver, and Brimstone. The uses of each are varied, but they can be combined. Do we ever learn what happens when they combine? No! Book 3, anyone? God, I hope so. There is a note, however, about it being unorthodox to combine this Tria Prima. But again, We have no further context. In the Elemental Runes and Their Purposes, a comprehensive guide to alchemy, we learned that during the first stages of ascension, equilibrium must be found. I take this to mean that in order to seal her first rune, ascension, one must be fully equal with the substance they're trying to seal. We will soon see how Saeris does this to seal her Quicksilver rune, one of the Tria Primas. Every alchemist has an affinity towards a certain path, either Quicksilver, Brimstone, or Salt. And without the appropriate guidance and training, the path will claim them. So I do wonder if this has ever happened with a previous alchemist, and that's what's caused them to go mad. They must marry the Tria Prima into one within themselves if they are fully to master this three-part power. Also, we learned from Adina that historically, alchemists shy away from the second bow of the Tria Prima, aka they shy away from the Brimstone shield. Not only because it's too powerful and very difficult to wield, but because the product of it only seems to be linked with death and destruction. Unfortunately for all of us, she does not elaborate on how else it can be used. But we obviously can assume that this is going to be sealed, hopefully early next book, to help eradicate the rot.
To state the obvious, 2 of the 3 Tria Prima are very important for our story and titles of the books so far. Because remember, this is a trilogy. Does that mean book 3 will be titled Salt or something similar that represents salt?
Yes.
And / or what is the significance of salt for the rest of our story and series? In real life, Tria Prima is known as the 3 primes of alchemy: sulfur, mercury, and salt. Or in this world's terms, Brimstone, Quicksilver, and then of course there's salt again. Salt is considered the base matter, and interestingly, it was the final and last of the 3 principles added to the Tria Prima. These 3 principles are more like combinations of the elements. So salt is a combination of earth and water, and it represents the body. Mercury, or Quicksilver, is a combo of water and air and represents the spirit. Sulfur, aka Brimstone, is a combination of air and fire and represents the soul. How interesting that it represents the soul when there is so much soul mentioned here in this book. This alludes to the phrase mind, body, and spirit, which represents our existence as humans within these 3 dimensions. Zooming back out, does the real Tria Prima have a 1-to-1 representation to the Tria Prima here in this book? No, not necessarily exactly the same, but definitely Callie certainly was heavily influenced by it. Thinking about salt in particular, if it is indeed connected to the element of earth, you know who that immediately makes me think of? Carrion and his interesting elemental magic with the blooming plants. Salt also represents stability and purity that go with this earth's material essence. That sure sounds useful for the 3rd and final book of a series where the land is being infected by rot. I think once Saeris seals this salt rune, it will be the necessary foundational component to her magic to become the ultimate master of it. It will give her mastery of the Tria Prima after all, and it will also be able to help her heal the world. I don't think it'll necessarily be like plant magic exactly like Carrion has, but very closely tied to all of that there.
It's a bird! It's a plane! It's a paper plane bird! Let's talk about one of our favorite elements of this book, the stargazers. When Saeris first enters the library, one particular paper plane bird is extra curious about Saeris, poking and prodding at her, which I assume this is the same stargazer that later comes up to her after her encounter with Foley, which let's go over what happens with that bird as she's leaving the library. There's a zing of pain that hits Saeris on the back of the neck. Ouch! Paper cut! One of the stargazers hovers just a few feet away, clearly trying to get Saeris' attention as it watches Saeris despite having no eyes. I do want to make a reference so badly right now, but I won't. But those who know. There's...
I know what you mean.
I know you know.
Foley has warned Saeris about these little magical paper birds, though. He says that they like to steal strands of people's hair for their nests. But in the wrong hands, hair can be someone's undoing. Quote, a fell witch would do terrible things to lay their hands on a strand of your hair. Oh, like Alget? The birds are pure and trusting. They can be compelled to do something without realizing the bad intention. So... this makes me wonder the same thing I brought up last episode about what Tal said about these stargazers. Does Foley actually know this, or is this an instance of an unknowing, unreliable narrator? Because I'm kind of leaning I guess actually kind of both in this situation. I think Foley knows Alget is fully capable of trying to take advantage of the birds in this way, and they are indeed trusting and innocent. But I think this is also him assuming, thinking the worst, rightly so in this case, about Alget. However, I don't think this is foreshadowing that Alget will have one of Saeris' hairs, because it doesn't seem like the paper birds ever did take her hair.
Correct. I think they just got a little nudge of her blood, but that was just to confirm her identity so that she had the super passcode.
Exactly.
Saeris doesn't see any of her hair in the Stargazer's grasp, so that's good. As she starts to walk away, this bird's like, nope, and it flies at her, cutting her cheek with its wings. Here is that Adina blood magic at play, trying to get her blood to see if it is indeed Saeris and thus the rightful owner of the journal. Just as the bird gets her cheek's attention, it falls out of the air, motionless. We know on a reread that this is because Saeris walked out of the parameters of the library and thus the magic of the little paper bird doesn't work anymore. But rather than just leave the little bird on the ground, Saeris feels, a twinge of sadness for it, and thank God she does, because she slips that paper bird into her pocket.
And then later puts the folded piece of paper on her nightstand in Kalish,
which will later then be found in her dream state in order to save Fisher. One of my favorite parts of this particular scene on a reread is realizing that this bird that's trying to test her to see if she is indeed Saeris and get her attention, this is the piece of Adina's journal that has Kingfisher's true name on it. Can you imagine, right here in this moment, Saeris just grabbed the bird out of the air, unfolded it, and just read it? Because I would have.
I would have too.
And I would have been like, oh, that's anticlimactic.
At the beginning of chapter 24, we get a paragraph out of one of the books that Saeris is reading. Nicole brought this up already, but because there is so much to all of this, we're going to go over it again. This book is called Elemental Runes and Their Purposes, a comprehensive guide to alchemy. Dang, this is quite the useful book for this alchemist. The passage says, equilibrium must be found at the first stages of ascension. Every acolyte has an affinity toward a certain path, which can claim the acolyte if they don't receive the proper guidance. They must, quote, marry the Tria Prima into one within themselves if they are to truly master their power. And lastly, but most importantly, the enlightened alchemist walks all three paths. Okay, so what this says is balance is required to begin ascending. And while I'm not exactly sure what it implies by path, my guess is the path is one of the alchemical components like Quicksilver, Brimstone, or Salt. But that is only my guess. When Saeris seals her Quicksilver rune, she is letting the Quicksilver in. She is inviting it to become part of her, which is how she will master its power. And what this says is that if an alchemist does this with all three, seals the Quicksilver, Brimstone, and Salt runes, then they are considered enlightened, like a master alchemist. I will also die dramatically on the hill that this happens to Saeris in book 3.
We also get an update on numbers sent from the war camp. Total known dead is now 1,976. This is 603 more than the last update, which was yesterday. Total known infected is 2,409, 744 more than yesterday. And the estimated infected landmass is 8,162, or 31.5 square miles, or 81.6 square kilometers. For reference, San Francisco proper is about 46 square miles. So this landmass of infected rot is 2/3 the size of San Francisco. Or, I wanted to do this, Florence, Italy is about 102 square kilometers, or 39 square miles. So this infected landmass is a little bit smaller than Florence.
And going off of what we were equating it to last episode, now it would be twice as big as Manhattan versus, what was it, a third of the size before?
A third of the size. It's a little smaller. So Manhattan is in the low 20s. And this is 31. So it's like a Manhattan and a half. But to go from 7.87 square miles to 31.5 square miles in one day is terrifying.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
In the Ammontraíeth Forge, Saeris is ready to get to work creating relics to keep forth with their plan to evacuate everyone, but the bad guys, from Yvelia. I just love how this was such a huge theme in Quicksilver, and now it's like, okay, I can do this now. Like, look at her growing. But a quick moment to highlight what's strange about this forge. There's no fire here. Aha, yes, because fire makes vampires go whoosh, up like kindling. Or like I have written in the outline here, like Kendall.
Not the Kindle!
The forge only has more even light, which does still work like fire at this forge.
Like each time that Saeris makes a relic, the Quicksilver wants something in return. So far, it's wanted a song, a joke, and a secret. But this one, it wants a memory. Now, with the joke and the secret and the song, Saeris was able to still remember these after she gave them to the Quicksilver. Yes, the song she was only able to remember because she was the one who made the deal with the Quicksilver, but everyone else forgot it. As every other bargain that she's made, though, we can assume everyone still remembers it. But this time, it seems that the Quicksilver wants the memory for the taking.
All right then, Quicksilver, we'll give you what you want. Saeris reaches for her most painful memory, the one where she witnesses her mother dying, her throat being sliced open. It makes absolute sense that this is the first memory that Saeris thinks of. She wants to not remember her most painful memory. However, at the last second, Saeris changes her mind. That memory may be extremely painful, but it helped shape her into who she is today. It's her last memory of her mother, and as horrible as it is, she needs to hold on to that memory, because without it, she doesn't know who she would be. Instead, Saeris selects a different memory, one that is on a morning like any other, where she's counting money in their hidden loft above the tavern where they were living, and she is telling Hayden something. She forgets what the memory was before we readers get to find out what it was, what it is. First of all, I love how this was written. So cool.
This has to come back into play, right? So I could see in the future Hayden talking to Saeris about this mighty important conversation they had, maybe where she was telling Hayden something about her mother or their father or Elroy, and Hayden will bring it up to her in book 3 and she doesn't remember. But I'm trying and I'm struggling to figure out how exactly this would, I'll call it create tension and shake up the story. But maybe I have another idea. Maybe she learned something from Adina that connects Yvelia and Zilvaren, but Saeris doesn't remember it. So it's Hayden who actually says it to the group. And then congratulations, Hayden, you actually get to be helpful for once.
So I would be leaning toward the latter if it comes back into play. But I don't think that Saeris would think that it is a very important conversation because she offers it up in the first place as just another ordinary conversation. I love the idea, though, that it ends up being important and Hayden saves the day by remembering this little bit of information that is not available to Saeris anymore, that she would never even imagine would have any importance to their lives now.
I guess from like a storytelling standpoint, I would feel really bummed if this cool mystery where we're left out of something as a reader happens and then it just never comes back into play. You know what I mean?
I do. And that's kind of the point in this, is that it's not supposed to be an important memory. So I could see it going one of two ways. One, that it does come back in a small way where it kind of helps them collect a little bit more information to be able to get more to their next point. I could also see it simply being this is what it is because, again, there are so many open plots going into book 3 that we can't close everything. And I would consider this to probably be one of those, I'll call it a loop, that I could see staying open.
I unfortunately think you might be right.
Now that the memory has been given, the only thing to do is to seal the relic with blood, and the Quicksilver will be made into the relic ready to go. Ah, yes, everything always comes back to blood, doesn't it?
So the only other time that we've seen the Quicksilver want blood in order to seal itself into a relic is right before Saeris had her like one ring to rule them all moment from Quicksilver. But rather than last time where the blood is absorbed right into the ring, this time it hisses. And Saeris thinks, that's new. So I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really think twice about a liquid going into a crucible with metal in it and then hissing. But I realize she doesn't say it's melted metal. In fact, it's actually not because it goes straight into the ring. So maybe she's curious, or she says it's new because the crucible is hissing, or because the blood is hissing when the crucible is not hot. In which case, yeah, that would definitely be new. But I wonder if this is actually because it's silver and it's vampire, because silver and vampire don't mix very well. So it's almost like the vampire in her blood hisses at the silver. I really feel like I'm
real
grasping
quickly
at
on a biological standpoint, her blood is not technically vampire part because she has living red blood, and that's not vampire blood.
So then it wouldn't be hissing for the vampire unless there's like something laced in there that does make it vampire. I'm grasping at straws. I want to know why it was new. Yeah.
I think it's simply that she's now very different because she has been avoiding doing this because she did not know if the Quicksilver would accept her.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like it's recognizing that she is different, but then it still works. And that is when it's like, oh, like, okay, it still does work.
Yeah.
You know who else comments that Saeris is surprised? The Hazrax. Oh, hello. Welcome to the Forge. Remember that the Hazrax is one of the Lords of Midnight, but is a creature entirely different and not of this world, and definitely is not a vampire. Also, big deal alert that the Hazrax is talking to Saeris. As the Keeper of Silence, it is known to be silent. It chooses to speak to very, 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 very few people.
I've been waiting to talk about the Hazrax because, like many people on the internet, is this a we are convinced?
I think we have different versions of this, and you're going to get mad at me that I think I'm playing it safe, but I definitely think
I am convinced that the Hazrax is a god of some kind, and this is how it can walk the continent and watch, especially given how it says that this body of it is a vessel, and how its power is raw and ancient.
It also sees avenues and pathways, possibilities, not unlike the threads of fate and the tapestry of the universe that Zareth refers to.
And how it can also hear the Quicksilver, something we have strongly related to the gods considering their connection to it. So this can only mean one thing. Which fucking god?
None that we know of. And that it is a different kind of god in a way that is not literal to what we know of so far.
You're right. I am mad at you because you are playing it safe. So I'm going to go through the gods that we do know and equate which one it most likely could be. It could be none that we know of.
I think these are all fun theories.
You couldn't have just waited 2 minutes. What was that you were saying earlier about patience, Lexi? I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm ruling out Zareth, Bal, and Mython. Also, I'm ruling out Styx because my brain simply refuses to believe that he could also be another fucking person. I also feel like the Hazrax would have interacted more with Kingfisher if it was Styx. So those 4 are out, which leaves 3 others. Carrion, God of Secrets, highly probable. Now, after doing a little bit of digging, I found that Carrion is actually a medical device company with what specialty, Lexi? Blood culture collection. What does the Hazrax say about blood magic? Blood magic is artless and requires no true skill, and that the Hazrax has no need for blood magic. So I can't tell if this would be a nod towards Carrion or a nod against Carrion, the God of Secrets. Also,
I love how this show is not sponsored by
Blood Culture Collection. Also, the Keeper of Silence and the God of Secrets are similar enough. Now, we do know that Tal is the Keeper of Secrets, but I do feel like if the Hazrax was the Keeper of Secrets and the God of Secrets, that would just be too obvious. So next, we're going to go with Nichenai, the Goddess of Masks. Maybe, but I'm really leaning towards Nichenai being Madra if she is anyone. And last but not least, we have Meleus, who is the god of dawn and new beginnings. This is my second choice behind Blood Culture Collection Committee. Side note, I think what Algat says about calling Saeris last episode like the title of Day's End and the Last Tide, I could see Meleus being tied to this because of the names that Saeris got from Algat, which means that this might be actually one of the more possible ones for the Hazrax since it's watching her. But that does, in my opinion, feel like a reach, and I'm assuming in Lexi's too. Sadly, we don't know much else about these gods and their names, so I'm not ready to say with 100% full certainty that the Hazrax is blank god, but I'm 99.999% certain that it is a god.
Am I allowed to talk yet?
No, I really don't see it. No, that's your part. You go for it.
I hear you on all of that, and I commend your research. I also don't see the Hazrax being a god that has a name that is a deity that this realm worships. This universe is so much bigger than these 7 gods. I don't think the Hazrax is a god per se, but has godlike qualities. So don't give me that look.
That's so boring.
So could it be considered one by like definition with its characteristics and ability to zoom out and experience this universe?
How is that not a god?
But it's not actually a god,
Oh my
especially with how we
God.
conceptualize the 7 gods. And it is its own entity because this universe is so full of so many different magical possibilities that I think we have to think much bigger of what the Hazrax is than what we readers and Saeris know.
I agree that this world is so much bigger, and I totally could see it being a god that we do not know. But it being a god, not a god, is something I refuse to get behind, because the second things are blank, not a blank, is when I throw up my hands as a deep diver and I know nothing, Jon Snow.
But like that is part of world building though, is that it's not putting things in these boxes like that. And there is so much room for other possibility. And that is what the Hazrax is.
I agree that there's room for other possibilities, but there's a difference between room for other possibilities and saying it has godlike qualities, but don't worry, it's not an actual god. Those are two different things.
I am getting so fired up to go work on my story.
That just breaks the rules of magic in my mind.
No, it doesn't. It
Yes, it
expands
does.
it expands it.
No, it doesn't. If I say I am connected to a dragon and I have powers from said dragon, but don't worry, it's not a signet, would you be pissed if we were Empyrean?
That's a Griffin rider, right? That's a Griffin flyer right there.
No, they are not as powerful.
Oh my god. Anyway, the Hazrax has a reason for being
Wait, I'm
here.
not done. I'm not done.
Okay. We were doing so well in this episode.
Were we? This brings me all to another option, because the Hazrax mentions being one with the wind. Here's a new crack theory, Lexi, that aligns with your it's a god but not a god situation. What if it is actually one of the 4 winds? What if my wind watch has actually been on track the entire time?
The Hazrax does make some kind of comment about, oh, you know how I hear the wind? Does that make me one with the wind? And
Yes.
It was proving her point that no, it's not one with the wind, because just because she can hear the Quicksilver does not mean that she is one with the Quicksilver yet. The Hazrax has a reason for being here in the Forge and talking to Saeris, though. It proposes the same deal that it had with Malcolm. The Hazrax was allowed to observe Malcolm, and in return, Malcolm was permitted 1 favor for each year that the Hazrax, remained here. And this favor would be whatever was in the Hazrax power. If it could do it, then it was done. And remember how powerful this creature is? It has immense, far-reaching power. Stop looking at me like that, Nicole. Which I know I said this in episode 1 too. It makes me really curious what kind of favors it granted Malcolm and how it contributed to Malcolm's powerful reign.
That we can agree on. I also wonder
good.
that. I just needed to declare that we can agree on something.
So the Hazrax requests, but actually demands, that Saeris make a deal with it. Preferably the same one, to observe her and she receive 1 favor per year. It is threatening in its statement that it must remain here. And my question is, why?
Because it's a god and it has to watch over the people of the realm.
Okay, so I have such a big question mark next to the Hazrax, the favors it has granted, and especially why it needs to stay here. I have lots of questions here. Maybe we can agree on some of them, Nicole.
I don't think that's possible.
Is it something special about the vampires in this blood court, Ammontraíeth, that requires the Hazrax to be here? Because it is very specific that it has to be here in Ammontraíeth. Or because the deal is to watch over the crown of the vampires, is it directly related to the crown, whoever it might be? If the Hazrax is some form of god, is there some reasoning that is connected to its bigger purpose? See, look, I threw you a bone there.
Okay, well, I'll throw another bone in here. What if this god, the Hazrax god, is like, I'll call it like an outcast god. And it's watching over the way that things are playing out. Because remember, the other gods up in the sky were not for Kingfisher and Saeris continuing on the way that things were. They wanted to just like burn the world and see what happened. So I do wonder if the Hazrax is here so that it can watch over to, I'm not going to say change things, but to watch the way things are panning out.
Yes.
Okay, look at that. Look at us go. I do think that there's some bigger reason than just Santa's Wrath that the Hazrax is watching over, because it travels to different places. It goes to Kalish in that dream state. It goes to Azure Sky when it needs to cure Onyx or help Saeris cure Onyx.
I think that it maybe even has been waiting for something like this rot to happen now. And now that it is happening, that is why it's like, no, Saeris, we still need to have our deal, because it's like, I'm not going to get out of this after I've been waiting for so long.
Yes.
So I could see that definitely being part of it. And it also was not planning to come and appear when Saeris called it. And it, in fact, kind of scolded her. It's like, you're not supposed to be just asking me to come out whenever you want. So again, watching her, watching the blood court, watching what is happening here with this power dynamic.
Yes, yes. With the Hazrax being terrified and so other, Saeris worries that what would happen if she pisses it off or she denies the bargain. But it's also Saeris, so she does want to, I'm going to say manipulate, but I'm going to put it the Saeris spin. Try to manipulate it so it's in her own benefit, which leads her to making it only yearly contracts with the Hazrax. It has permission to stay and observe, note she does not say where, in exchange for a favor of her choosing, and she can renew the bargain each and every single year. Sadly, oh, Saeris, you're doing so good sometimes. While Saeris is learning from those Fae bargains, there is still that loophole she's not seeing about where. So this actually brings me to a thing that I'm convinced that Faelings are taught, and it's the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, why. Because I feel like whenever a bargain is checked, it's all of those boxes are checked. Who, what, when, where, why. And honestly, I feel like if you cover the 5 W's in a Fae bargain, that covers a lot of your bases. So honestly, I'm going to keep that in mind for my own Fae bargains in the future. And I will say this. It's
for all those Fae bargains that we plan on having.
Honestly, you and I's bets are basically a Fae bargain.
I was going to say, I think you and I would actually be pretty darn good at this. Although, every single best thing, we still have issues. And I am going to start pulling out the recordings of some of these.
Fine.
Because, for instance, yes, we are in a separate realm for one chapter, and then it's literally one sentence of another one. And what did I say? Why did we even agree to it being 2 chapters, Nicole?
I want to.
Why?
I will not say. I have
Answer
the right
the
to remain silent.
Answer the question.
No, I have the right to remain silent because I have not seen the recording, and I want to make sure I see the recording first.
Okay, let me explain what happened then. So it was literally me saying, okay, I don't think that they are going to spend a lot of time in another realm. And we were trying to define what a lot of time meant. And so our conclusion was if they are in another realm for like the spread of more than 2 chapters, meaning like
no,
it is that
2 or more chapters.
I am never letting you write down our bets ever again because you take it the way you want to hear it.
I will say this, going back to what we're actually talking about, it is a good thing that Saeris agreed to this bargain in this way because boy, oh fucking boy, does she need the fairy god Hazrax to come into play for both Kingfisher and Onyx's sake.
As we wrap up this interaction with the Hazrax, I want to point out a few more interesting observations. When it holds the relic that Saeris has just created, it burns the Hazrax, though it doesn't seem to hurt it at all. I wonder if it has to do with her blood that she just sealed the relic with, or the Quicksilver that, it doesn't hurt the Hazrax, but it's like... The Hazrax also has the relic hovering in the air, spinning extremely fast. And after the Hazrax leaves and Saeris reaches for the suspended spinning relic, the relic stops and drops into Saeris' hand. And the moment she touches it, the world pitches on its side. Blinding white light flares behind Saeris' eyes. Pain is tearing her soul apart. Her Quicksilver rune is blazing. Oh no, it's activated. There's nothing holding back her power as it blazes through her. Oh shit, this is bad. Before we move on to what Saeris has to do about this before her power blows up Ammontraíeth, this timing of right when she touches the relic, is it like her power is activated after the Hazrax had some magic on the relic to keep it midair? Did it plan for this to happen? Its magic activates Saeris' power. Or is it because she touched the relic that is now imbued with the Quicksilver in her blood? Maybe a little column A, maybe a little column B.
Yes, I'm going with a little of column A, little of column B.
Look at us. Okay.
I was doing that to annoy you because I was trying to play it safe. But I actually do agree with that. All lit up like a Christmas tree, Saeris books it to the Ammontraíeth Quicksilver pool. She is one wrong move away from destroying literally all of Ammontraíeth, everyone inside, herself included, maybe even Santa's Wrath too. Her power is growing more and more and more, just itching like it's about to explode out of her. So she sees this as, holy shit, I have to seal this rune right now or else I'll die, everyone else around me will die. With her nerve endings on fire and the magic building inside of her, she is completely out of options. She knows that she needs to enter the Quicksilver pool, but there's, one small problem. She does not have her relic on her. She left it back in the forge. Kingfisher believes that her alchemist blood protects her from the Quicksilver's negative effects, but that hasn't exactly been tested yet. And there's really only one way to find out. Before we get beat by fucking beat of a walkthrough through this, I do want to note this really quick similarity between the Quicksilver and what it says to Kingfisher and Zilvaren at this exact moment of what it's saying to Saeris in Ammontraíeth. It's saying, you came. Buy me dinner, Quicksilver first. Jesus. I love this because while it could be, / I think it is, talking to both Kingfisher and Saeris individually, it also could be Kingfisher hearing what the Quicksilver is saying to Saeris or vice versa. I just love that it's this parallel moment between the two of these. And we've seen this before. In the Huntsman Cottage, Kingfisher notes how at the same time that he punched a hole through the tower, Saeris explodes a hole through the library. I feel like this is definitely a mates thing, where in even different realms, they have parallel moments in their lives with each other.
That's a really good catch. Yay, good job, Nicole. At the Ammontraíeth Quicksilver pool, Saeris knows the only thing to do is to enter the pool. Yes, even without a relic. It could be the only thing that will save her from exploding. And this is something she has to do to bond with the Quicksilver, to show that she trusts it. Or, maybe she'll die in the process. Won't find out until we try. For the first time ever, Saeris takes a moment to willingly let her power in. Looking her power in the eye feels like staring into a black hole. It is so vast. It feels immortal. And yes, this immense power she has within her, it scares her. And she has shied away from letting it swallow her whole. And yes, as she is diving into its depths within herself right now, it feels like way too much. But as she reminds herself, she is Saeris Fane, damn it! The little Zilvaren girl without a chance, a victim of circumstance, the one who ought to give up, but she's just too hard-headed. A single sister who thieves for jobs, who loves her brother and never stops, with alchemist hands and a heart of a fighter. She's a survivor.
Yes, Reba! Oh my god!
Everybody, I sincerely apologize. I do not have the singing skills as Reba. But as I was doing this, I was like, oh, Saeris is a survivor. And then the song just suddenly came up and I was like, wait a second.
Oh my god.
I can have fun with this.
And this is one of our first moments of Fantasy Fangirls and Fantasy Fanfellas true crossover moments, because Hayden made a perfect Reba McEntire.
Did he really?
Did you not know that? I thought that's why you put this in here.
No, I didn't know that. I think that was one of the episodes that I wasn't able to listen to.
Determined and high on Reba, Saeris knows that if she continues to fight against the wave of overwhelming, terrible power, she will be swallowed by it. Nom, 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 nom. She repeats to herself, quote, "This isn't something to be afraid of. This is a part of you, a part of yourself that you hadn't gotten to know yet. You can do this." I'm not going to lie. I nearly teared up when I was doing this part for the outline. How often do we say something like this to ourselves in the face of fear? I know I rarely, if ever, do.
It's funny you say that because this has had to become my mantra since we've been doing FFG. I will always remember the day, it was sometime in 2024, that you asked me if something, although I cannot remember what it was.
Some live event, I think.
Yeah, was out of my comfort zone. And I just laughed and said, my whole life is out of my comfort zone now. But it's so amazing because even though things do feel out of my comfort zone all the time, it still feels so vital and so part of me. And it's something that I'm getting to know about myself that has always been within me. And it's facing it and embracing it and reminding myself that I can do hard things, that I can live outside of my comfort zone and get to know myself all at the same time.
It's so funny you say this because I feel like I so regularly live outside my comfort zone. I was actually saying this to Brett this weekend. It's like I feel like I'm constantly pushing myself out of my comfort zone, but I so rarely pause and give myself credit for getting out of my comfort zone because I'm always so, what's next? What's next? What's next?
It's almost like it's normalized for us now.
It's completely normalized. And one of the things that I love about this line right here is this is a part of you, a part of yourself you haven't gotten to know yet. And just that reminds me of just the importance of slowing down and getting to know yourself in new chapters of life, especially those chapters where you are doing hard things.
I think that's been probably one of the hardest things over the last 2 years for at least me is getting to know this side of me while still being a mother, while still being a wife. And it's been interesting. Yeah,
interesting is a good word for it. So this is a friendly reminder to us all that maybe the thing we are scared to do is actually just a part of ourselves that we haven't gotten to know yet. And above all, we can do this. The moment Saeris stops fighting against her power, magic zips up her body, and all she feels is raw, divine energy. And her shield / her rune begins to flare blue, ready to be summoned as if it was easy as breathing.
Oh my God! Step 1 complete. Summoning the Quicksilver is effortless now because, yeah, girl, it's figuratively a part of you now that you've accepted it and opened your whole self to this power. But now it's time to become literally part of the Quicksilver and, still hope that she doesn't die. Stepping into the Quicksilver pool feels like ice around her ankles. The liquid metal is churning violently, sloshing and bubbling like boiling water. Saeris has to fight her instinct to run, that this is a massive mistake. And as she stands there, the Quicksilver begins to form small streams that climb up her body. At this point, the Quicksilver is now touching her skin. Remember how big of a no-no that's supposed to be, and she's not wearing a relic. It's moving up her arms, her neck, talking inside of her head. It is everywhere. Saeris notes that the Quicksilver feels like an alien, agile presence. It doesn't sound fractured like it normally does, though. Saeris calls it a primitive power, older than the universe itself, and now its attention is solely focused on her. So real quickly here, we were talking a lot at the end of Quicksilver about how Xarath was kind of like channeling himself through the Quicksilver sometimes. And Saeris even was like, I think this is the voice that has actually been speaking to me this whole time. I don't get Xarath vibes right here per se, but definitely that otherworldliness, of course, that the Quicksilver is and represents there is how I really interpret it.
Yeah, same. I don't think that this is Xarath necessarily, but that otherworldly, I call it larger than life.
Yeah,
sentience.
Like that sentient. Yeah,
definitely.
Also, fun fact in this moment, Fisher is at the Quicksilver pool in Elroy's basement, and he can feel she's only inches away. So the Quicksilver pool is not liquefied for everybody quite yet, right? I think so.
Yes, correct.
But he can feel that she is close by.
Yes. As Saeris is in the Quicksilver, second thoughts start to nip at her heels. After all, what are the only experiences she has with people who have interacted with Quicksilver without a relic? Heron is one, and things did not go very well for him. After, Quicksilver infiltrated his eyes, his mind, who knows what else, and who knows if Homeboy's even still alive. And then, of course, there's Kingfisher, who nearly went mad from it over the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But Saeris does know she's different. For one, she's an alchemist. She knows that the Quicksilver and her interact differently. And technically, she's been in the Quicksilver before when Xarath called her to the God Realm, and that was without a relic. But the last time, the Quicksilver did not test her the way that it is now, almost as if it's trying to make sure that her mind is strong enough to withstand the negative effects, and it starts fighting back on every statement she says, to the point that she tells the Quicksilver her name, and it's like, "You're a blight curse worker. You don't deserve to live." And she's like, "The fuck I do." She says she's more worthy than any of the others because she is the one who stands before the Quicksilver now. I am so proud of Saeris and how strong she is being in this moment. It's so good.
Definitely. Saeris passes the Quicksilver's next test. She is willing to kill or die, but she is not willing to give up Fisher, the one most dear to her. To which the Quicksilver says something mighty interesting. Quote, "Every alchemist must have something they are afraid to lose." But then after it begins retreating, after the pathway is clear and Saeris's Quicksilver rune is sealed, the Quicksilver says, quote, "Receive this gift all in fear and trembling. In the end, it will be your end." Whew. Okay. I take this as the gift is her Quicksilver rune being sealed. She has mastered the magic, but it is extremely powerful, and her immense power will end up being her end.
Yes, that is also how I take this, but I will also throw out that this is going to be added to the list of things that make me very, very nervous. Going back to that last tide, Day's End, the names that Algot called Saeris, what if this also ties back in? We've talked about endlessly Kingfisher and his hard-on for sacrificial acts, but Saeris is also very, very similar. So do you see a world in which she will attempt to, I'll call it, sacrifice herself for Fisher, and that is what will be her end, what the Quicksilver's talking about here?
Yes, and I don't see it actually being her end. I do not think that Saeris is going to die in this series. I think her being so powerful will help her out to survive ultimately. Like maybe that can help be when she becomes the master of the Tree of Prema or something like that. So yes, I do see her sacrificing herself and her surviving the sacrifice. After this big moment with the Quicksilver and successfully connecting with her magic, sealing her Quicksilver rune and becoming one with her power, she accidentally opens the Quicksilver pool. And the Winter Palace is all too happy to take advantage of the newly awakened Quicksilver. Out emerges Orias, Belicon's seneschal, or as Orias calls him, King Belicon. Now, if you're like, who the hell is Orias and what the fudge is a seneschal? Allow me to explain. Orias was briefly introduced early on in Quicksilver, when Saeris goes into the Winter Palace's Grand Hall before Belicon and when Fisher was presented and going all crazy from the Quicksilver. Orias is the hand of the king, so to speak, a loyal, creepy, gaunt, unhealthy-looking older male without any power of his own, I might add. But yes, that is basically what a seneschal is, an advisor to the king. He attends to matters on behalf of the king that are beneath the king. And since we know Belicon's a bad guy, Orias sure is too. Getting some bad vibes with the 5 soldiers who come out of the Quicksilver with Orias, arrows knocked in their bows. But I do want to note the way that the soldiers' pupils are dilated, I wonder if they are under some kind of control right now.
Yep. Same. Orias is here on Belicon's orders to offer Saeris a bargain. You see, Sanisroth is a barren wasteland, and the blood court is comprised of high-bloods who only want to drink blood and party. So who will be quick to anger and devolve into monsters the second their blood runs out? Or the second maybe their queen starts to deny them their source of food. Is Saeris prepared to deal with that aftermath? Probably not. Then there's the rot. It's spreading across the Southlands, swallowing the vegetation and infecting the wildlife. We've been saying this with our Hector math for 2 episodes. Belicon believes that it's too late to save the infected lands. Sounds pretty sus there, my guy. So instead, he's willing to provide shelter and protection from the spreading rot. Again, sounds pretty sus. He offers safe harbor in the Winter Palace for Saeris. In exchange, Saeris will become Belicon's alchemist and join his court with all the fine foods, the wine, the clothes she could ever want, but that's just a small part of it. Saeris must also return Everlane to Belicon, and then Kingfisher has to be shackled and publicly executed. And a few small other acts as a sign of good faith. Saeris would need to swear an oath before the Stone, and she must hand over Solace. This is very weighted on one side.
Especially because it's like, he's like, oh yes, well, we can protect you from the rot. So first of all, we agree with Saeris, and no, he cannot. The rot has a mind of its own.
Yeah.
Or he could actually protect them from rot because he has a hand in it. So.
I think it's door number 2. That's where I'm leaning.
Ah, how interesting that Bellicon demands Saeris swear in front of the Fearin Stone and become an oath-bound fae. He certainly would want her to do this, because when you become an oath-bound fae, you are not only bound to your word where you can never lie, but you are also bound to serve the Winter Palace, aka to serve Bellicon. If Saeris becomes oath-bound now that she's half fae, Bellicon can force her to his will because as king, her oath is technically to him, which we can only imagine how bad news bear that is with how hungry for an alchemist he is. But unfortunately, this is a very good reminder that her friends and mate, Fisher, Renfis, Lorth, everyone in the army, they are all oathbound to Bellicon. He cannot reach them when they are in Kalish thanks to Fenrin's old wards, and there has to be some proximity in order to order them. Although, we will get to the actuality of this later in the book when Fisher is called to Bellicon right before or in the Shadowgate.
When Saeris does not agree to Bellicon's terms, Arias orders Bellicon's soldiers to attack! They shoot iron-tipped arrows at Saeris, but having just sealed her Quicksilver rune, she is easily able to reach out and mentally, with very little thought or effort, redirect the arrows before they're even halfway across the room. Instead of piercing Saeris like a pincushion, the arrows are now embedded in the ceiling. Saeris notes that this is literally as easy as nudging a leaf floating on top of flowing water. Oh, this is so cool.
Ditching the arrows, the soldiers pull out blades made of a strange alloy that Saeris is not able to manipulate like other metals. When she tries to shove these blades with her mind, they barely move, and they really kind of don't feel good for her. These blades are called null blades, and Bellicon discovered that they can limit an alchemist's magic. Even though alchemists have not been around for a long time, Bellicon remembers how dangerous they are and believes that no power that vast should ever be gifted to one group of people. And to this day, every soldier in Bellicon's army is equipped with a null blade the day they complete their training. To Saeris, these blades feel unnatural. There is nothing particularly special about them from the outside. So we can gather that yes, these null blades are made of some kind of metal that counters the alchemist's power. Because the air shivers and distorts around the metal like it is being pulled into them, and the closer the blades get, the more Saeris' skin crawls. I will point out too that Tal will feel this way about the null blades as well, so it's not only Saeris, but if these soldiers are having to keep these on their person all the time, you wouldn't think that they would affect them in that same way, because Tal is like, I can't even have this in the same room as me.
Are we sure Taladeus is not an alchemist?
No, because he's just very, very powerful. So what I'm saying is I wonder if these null blades react to the very powerful. Yes, that does include alchemy, but it also includes other kinds of magic as well, including Tal, because he is so powerful.
With her super awesome, totally cool new heightened Quicksilver alchemy and magic, Saeris, who's not been enjoying the heaviness of Solace because of how it's been, very difficult for her to wield, decides it's time to make things a little easier. Placing both of her hands on Solace's hilt, she pictures the sword becoming 2. And you know what? When she draws her hands apart, it's 2 brand new short god swords. This is so fucking cool.
Saeris has 2 swords!
Not the 2 hands.
2 hands make 2 swords!
Each have super cool fae magic running along the blades, which we'll later come to learn are runes that say Aramar, which means mercy, and Solanir, which means honor. This is the coolest use of alchemy and magic we have freaking seen, because it's not only half of Solace's power in each sword. Each sword has full powers, which means twice two god swords, 2 powerful god sword powers.
Seeing the mastery and huge change in how she wields metal now and is one with the Quicksilver, it's so cool. Like how she's like, she could just think and they become swords. Like she's like, I never need to use a forge again. I'm so interested to see what will happen when she masters Brimstone. It's like, all I can think about is the lava queen from Moana.
Yes! That's exactly where my mind goes to. Yes.
One of the soldiers comes at Saeris, and when his null blade clatters with her god sword, she feels a very unpleasant sensation. These null blades impact all kinds of magic, right? So these null blades are also impacting god swords too. Again, that goes back to, I'll call it magic and how they just counter magic. Saeris is fighting all 5 of these fuckers. She spins and sinks her short sword into one of the male's chests. Huzzah! 1 down, 4 to go.
During this battle, Saeris thinks to herself that she knows where the attackers are going to be before she sees them. This is now the 3rd time we have seen Saeris have an ability to see the very, very, very near future in battle. The first was at the fight at the Darn last book. We never got an explanation for that. And then previously, it was also when she was training with Lorith earlier on this exact stretch of chapters. So this is not when she's only wielding Solace, because she wasn't wielding Solace when she was training with Lorith. So I still feel like it's the God Sword power that comes with Solace, but that doesn't make any sense.
I think I'm leaning into it being a description to show how much better she is getting, that her senses are getting that much better. Her reactions are happening before they're even happening, kind of thing, you know? She has the best reactions possible because it's almost like she's reacting before it even happens.
I think you might be right. But then what is Solace's god power?
I don't know if we know exactly what it is. I mean, like, we could even argue we don't know what Nemeral's power is, and we certainly don't know what Simon's is. So I think that Avisiath is the only one who has a very clear power.
That's true. That's true. Well, with 1 down, it's time to take the other 4 out. After 1 breaks her hold and cuts Saeris' side open, it gives her an opening to take her right godsword and slit his throat. 3 left to go. 1 kicks at Saeris' knee, trying to break it. No, sir. Bad. No joke. This is how I would go down in battle. If someone trying to kick my knee out, and that would just happen instantly. But luckily, Saeris is fast, and she slams her elbow into his face. The next 2 run for her, and she's able to drive one of her swords into one's gut, but she's still surrounded and needs a little assistance. Hello?
Nicole, do you hear that? It's the sound of her mate coming through the Quicksilver from Elroy's basement. And the first thing Fisher does is throw out his magic as glittering black sand ropes, wrapping it around the throat of the closest soldier to Saeris and ripping his head off of his body and then chucking said body out of the way. Fisher is pissed. He just spent 2.5 days on a boys' trip with Carrion, only to come home to find his mate being attacked. After all, he was worried she was in danger, and that's why he ditched his kill Madra plan to come back through the portal to help her.
I want to point this out because this is one of my favorite moments between Kingfisher and Saeris' relationship. Because during this exchange, Kingfisher asks Saeris, if she's all right, and then he asks, quote, "Do you need me?" This right here is top tier book boyfriend status. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know what I'm about to bring in. I love it when a partner in a book stands to the side or behind the other partner. Not because they don't want to protect their partner. It's because they trust them to handle it themselves. And this question right here is the standing to the side or even behind equivalent for Kingfisher. This "do you need me" implies that Saeris is strong enough to handle this all on her own. But should she want help, he can offer it. It's her choice. 3 cheers for Kingfisher. I love the theme of choice. If you listen to our ACOTAR coverage, you know I'm hot on it. This almost negates some of the L's I gave Kingfisher last book.
Kicking ass, Saeris slams her 2 short swords together to become one again, Solace. She throws her right hand up and out in front of her, projecting a giant blue icon form in the air. Okay, friends, this is Saeris' shield. It is how she physically channels this immense amount of power. The interlocking runes in the giant icon are identical to the runes on Saeris' hand. So runes are part of the shield, and shield is like the overarching magic of a person that they have, if that makes some sense. And while most of the lines of the interlocking runes are dull, aka not activated, One in particular is blazing with magic, just waiting for Saeris to fully tap into it. And yes, friends, you guessed it. It is her Quicksilver rune that she just sealed, the magic she has mastered. This rune and its symbol projecting in the shield is a circle bisecting a cross with a line cutting through it at the top. This is a very similar symbol to Mercury, which is also called Quicksilver in real alchemy. So I love how she really took a lot of those influences there. Saeris can even see that her veins are now silver. Holy shit! But remember, this is not a bad thing like the Quicksilver in Fisher's Eye. This is a sign of her being one with the silver, partners with it now that she has sealed this rune. As Saeris spreads her fingers and twists her hand, it's like the Quicksilver rune is a key locking into place. And the moment it does, a wall of energy explodes from her, hurling the two remaining guards across the tomb and snapping their necks. They dead. Holy shit. Now, how is this energy field and blast connected to the Quicksilver? I don't know, simply put. Like, this wall of energy is not the exact same as, manipulating the Quicksilver and having that kind of relationship with the liquid, right? But I think that overall, it's really just tapping into her raw magic. I guess I'm a little bit confused on all that. I do want to note, though, that in real alchemy, Quicksilver, or Mercury, means transformation and communication, which I just love because transformation and communication are what the Quicksilver is all about in this world.
With 5 men now down like trees, Arias is like, well, hi, Kingfisher. And while Kingfisher is all ready to torture the motherfucker, even though it is more of a threat, I do want to point out that this is foreshadowing because later he will threaten to torture Ishabal for the stunt she pulled at the Blood Court. And Saeris, just like here, is not about it. She lays down the law that they do not torture people. So why, when these types of people who have a lot of information, who really, really, really suck, why would they let them go? As Saeris puts it, they have to send Arias back because he now knows what Saeris is capable of, and he best bet his butt that he's going to go tell Bellicon and put some real fear in his eyes. And because if they keep him and torture Arias, they are no better than the other side. Saeris grew up under Madra's reign, who was the type of person who would torture and get every ounce of information out of people because of her own fear and paranoia. And Saeris is determined to be better than her. To quote Lexi from a few episodes ago, the bar is fucking low. And she also wants to be better than Bellicon, who tortured her mate for years. So I do commend Saeris for taking the high road. There's other things that I want to say, but I don't know if it's very nice.
It's okay. I'll say them. Okay, thank you. I realize how this is going to sound, so I accept this being probably a terrible take. But I don't think sending Arias back to Bellicon was the best move. Saeris wants to show her cards to Bellicon, and she thinks that now that she's got her Quicksilver rune sealed, Bellicon won't mess with them or won't want to mess with them. Now he will actually be able to plan more strategically around this new information. So I'm not saying, yay, let's torture Arias, but could we at least lock him up? Bellicon would figure out that they came here and never returned pretty quickly anyway.
This is the equivalent of an evil villain download at the end of the book, but then the other people get away, like the good guys get away, and now they know how to tackle the evil villains better.
Yes!
But flip it around, and Saeris just gave them all an evil villain download with a showing of her magic, and now Arias can go back to Bellicon and be, no, I will stand next to you. I will stand by your side.
I'm not saying to torture him, to kill him, or anything like that. I'm just saying, don't send him back to Bellicon.
I would say he also probably has some very interesting information on the way that Bellicon's court runs, and he can't lie because he's sworn to the fear and
Well,
stone.
hold on, because she actually challenges him on that, and he doesn't answer. So I wonder if he's not with that. Yeah.
Oh.
But I do think that if he never returned to Bellicon, that would send its own message, but it would also have like this air of mystery, and it would mess with Bellicon. Is Saeris that powerful? Did she stop him? Are the vampires unruly now and they ate them? It would keep Bellicon on his toes in a way that would not be a terrible thing for your enemy to be on their toes. That's all I'm saying.
I both commend Saeris for taking the high road and being the better person, not wanting to be like the tyrannical ruler that she grew up under. And you make really good points. Just saying. I do love, though, that we get this moment of Kingfisher literally kicking Orias in the back butt and right into the Quicksilver, and he goes, bye!
Could we have taken his relic and then sent him back through the Quicksilver? I mean, I don't know.
Oh, that would have been good.
That would have been its own form of torture, I guess. I apologize, everybody. I swear I'm a nice person.
I don't.
Since this was so much of a battle sequence and really cool magic that Saeris was wielding, Nicole and I didn't really touch much on how insane it is that Bellicon did send his advisor and 5 guards ready to kill into Ammontraíeth. Orias clearly had orders that Saeris would either bow to Bellicon's insane and long list of requests, including executing Fisher, and if she did not bow to those requests, then the order was to kill her. I take this as Bellicon testing the waters, making up an excuse to try and take Saeris down when he believes that she's weak. In this moment, it's not like going to all-out war with Saeris, but he is 1000% seeking to gain the upper hand, threatened to take away the blood supply for the vampires, because yes, it is heavily implied he is behind making sure these tens of thousands of vampires get their living blood fix. And he's threatening Saeris that he has the Oathbound card to use in his pocket. Bellicon is testing to see how ballsy she is, or how scared she is. But wow, now we know not to reopen the Quicksilver pool, except right away again to send Hayden to Kalish, and many more times after that. Honestly, I am very surprised that nobody else appears in any other Quicksilver pools that we know of.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I'm also surprised that not all other Quicksilver pools have guards around them like they do at the Knights of Aristian. That just makes sense.
And where are the other alchemists in the whole universe who also have this capability? You would think that they'd be a little excited that they can now that they can now, use their magic.
Yes, I agree. That makes a lot of sense.
Let's step into our inner oracle and turn our full attention to important foreshadowing moments for the rest of this book and speculations for book 3 and beyond. Nicole, you know what's back that I didn't think we were ever going to see in this deep dive series?
I knew this was coming.
Pirate Watch!
There it is.
Fisher had a bad run-in with a pirate a long time ago, and now I am so curious to know more about the Yuvelian pirates, who are probably in Lycia. Yep. Maybe we'll go there in book 3 and meet some pirates.
I don't know if I want to go to Lycia. Lycia sounds scary. That woman is scary.
But it's all sunshine and beaches and all of those things that you love so much.
I do love it, but you know what I don't love? Evil queens.
She's just known to be immortal.
She was fucking Malcolm.
No, we don't know that. That was somebody making that assumption. That was me making that theory.
Oh,
that is never on the page.
All the foreshadowing we get from the letters and how they miraculously missed Folly, even though all of the Lupo Prolia members sent them, even Danya. So you know what I'm going to start, Lexi? God fucking damn it, Zavinia. GFTZ. It's close enough to GFDD. All the circle foreshadowing. Foley shares how a circle is the foundation of all powerful runes and sigils.
It is a symbol of forever, carrying magic on a loop, amplifying it and giving it strength. It is the most important magical symbol there is.
And thus, the strongest magical symbol there is.
And friends, this is very, very, very important for us.
Because literally right after that, it says, like a wheel, which something we readers immediately associate with Zilvaren, because that is the first line we get about Zilvaren in Quicksilver, is that it's the shape of a wheel. Okay, we get a mention of Saeris' father. It's a dead mention. And I'm still not willing to submit in the bet, though. I've submitted twice in bets, but the more and more we read, I'm definitely thinking he might be dead.
I'm sorry, will you repeat that? The mention of her father is a reminder of how he died.
Yeah, but we do not get confirmation.
Nicole, I really hate to break it to you, but I really think you've lost this bet.
Fine. I don't get to cuss in an episode of Lexi's choosing, but she has to verbally tell me that this is the episode.
Yes, I will have to remember it at the beginning of the episode.
And every time I forget, it is an hour of babysitting for each slip.
Yes. We will have something that if by the end of the series and a bet, like you can have like an extra good bet or something like that, like, or like an extra good, I'll call it reward if you end up being right, like books later.
Okay.
Yes. But if that's the case, then I have several lots that I get to cash in from Onyx Storm and Iron Flame.
Kingfisher mentions how after seeing even light torches in the Guardians' hands, this is in Zilvaren, they shouldn't have even light in this realm. But why would they not have even light and then have an entire celebration of even light? I cannot believe we did not get even light in this book. I'm just so mad.
So as I interpret it is the even light holiday is different from even light, like the fire and stuff like that. Like it's not a 1-to-1 correlation.
It is the same word.
Yes, I know that, but we are not going with that, okay? So what if Malcolm gave Madra even light? Is there some kind of connection with the underworld? It feels like a little bit of a major stretch, but is even like an indirect way of connecting Madra with the rot?
Maybe.
I don't know, yeah.
I don't know.
This is more like past shadowing, or I guess it would be called hindsight.
That's definitely called hindsight.
The Hazrax tells Saeris her mate needs to be wary of new faces. I'm assuming this refers to Vorth Shah and what just happened to Fisher in Zilvaren, since that is certainly a new face that he should be wary of. But if it's not that, and you are emphatically nodding your head, so you know what, I'm going to jump on this train here with you. Something about the new faces he meets in Diaxis at the end of the book is actually what the Hazrax is referring to, and that he needs to be wary of new faces.
Hayden. Oh, Hayden. He says that he let his big sister down the last time he saw her, and he doesn't want to do it again. Spoiler alert, he will. And I just want to throw a grape at him. I'm so mad at this younger sibling, I swear to God.
I will
if
say...
I am ever like Hayden Fane, I need you to take a tennis ball and just boop me on the head or stuff it in my mouth.
That is actually a really good point, though, that Hayden, we get no hint that he does think that Saeris is with Madra. And so he has really been living in like, oh my God, my sister is dead. And then as soon as he does like see her and like actually sees like what is really going on, I think that is when he really becomes bitter. And yes, he has had like that doubt in his head. Like he obviously is not getting beat up like Elroy is because he does doubt her loyalty to the third. And I think that he, before that, is also so worried that she actually is dead now and all of that. And then once when that all kind of clears, then his anger really does come to the forefront, because then it's like, you actually are the bad person that I thought you were since you're not dead.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. Saeris mentions how Arias looks pretty damned unwell. What's happening to him? I mean, like, there's no love lost here, but I'm still curious.
So I was actually looking at when he was introduced in Quicksilver, and he was described as looking very unhealthy at that time too. So I do think that it's just him. I also wonder if him having none of his own magic or powers plays into it too.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And
last but not least, Nicole, I'm so sorry to say this, but I guess I will be the one to pick up Gem Watch now.
I was saving it. Well, go for it.
We gotta bring it up now, because otherwise the masses will let you know again. I'm never letting you live that down.
I know you're not.
Because we get mention of the Hazrax's Lord of Midnight ring, one of the rings that Malcolm had made for his Lords of Midnight that he imbued power into. The Hazrax has a thick-banded, bulky golden ring that has a large blood-red ruby at its center. So rubies symbolize power, wealth, and life force. That feels like it tracks for the Hazrax.
Enjoy me going through every other Lord of Midnight signet ring when we covered the Blood Curse episode. It is time to enter Alget's library with Guru the Shadow Cat, where each episode Lexi guides us through a world-building topic, and gods do we need this one today, to help us deepen our understanding of this world and its magic.
Today's Alget's library topic is runes. Or at least as good of a library topic on runes that I can do here. First things first, what are runes? So runes are the connection between its corresponding element's magic and the individual. Think of it like a vessel for the magic between them. Once marked with their runes, magic starts to flow into the alchemist without stopping unless the runes are then sealed. There are, of course, other versions of runes as well, like when Fisher made the rune in the demon trap in Zilvaren, and then his tattoos on his body are often referred to as runes. People tattoo runes onto them. So it is a word that is used interchangeably with other magical and tattoo symbols and whatnot. But for today's discussion, we're going to focus on alchemical runes like what Saeris has, because that is what I understand the most. How are runes related to and used in alchemy? Sealing runes is vital to an alchemist. Without sealing a rune, its magic will continue to pour into the alchemist, building up until eventually demanding to be released. The strength of the alchemist determines how detrimental this release will be. For someone as powerful as Saeris, an explosion of power would not only kill her and everyone around her, but it would also destroy the entire realm. So yeah, sealing runes is extremely important. While unsealed, the magic also flares randomly, causing intense pain. Nicole, I was looking back through Quicksilver, and when she first gets her runes, she does feel like that blaze of pain, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love the little foreshadowing moment there. Okay, so we know that runes need to be sealed, but how does one go about that? Well, first things first, the alchemist needs to be well rested, as alchemy requires a lot of control, and the alchemist needs to be in the right headspace. To seal the Quicksilver rune, the failing or beginner needs to open themselves up to the energetic flow of the Quicksilver and learn to embody the Quicksilver's energy, aligning themselves with it, body and mind, before they try to transmute the substance from a solid to a liquid for the first time. Every day, the failing or the beginner are encouraged to alter the Quicksilver repeatedly between its natural states until the skill becomes easy and they've built a rapport with the Quicksilver. Only after they have mastered this skill are they ready to set their affinity for the Quicksilver's magic and seal their first alchemical rune. So I am curious about what this looks like with sealing other runes. Is it similar? Or because Quicksilver literally does have a mind of its own, it requires more of a partnership and connection than the others. So for instance, I wonder if Brimstone, because it has more of a connection with the soul, like it's a little bit more like looking internally, and I could see even like an Ouroboros moment where Saeris really has to look into her own inner demons. That's totally just my theory though. Back to the Quicksilver runes, because again, this is what we know the most about. To actually seal this Quicksilver rune, the alchemist must open themselves up to the energy of the rune, and the Quicksilver tests the integrity of the alchemists. Once when they pass this initial test, then that is when the individual goes into the Quicksilver, and it really is the ultimate sign of trust, is to embrace the Quicksilver and to let it become literally part of them. Once they seal this rune, the alchemist can wield the Quicksilver with just a thought. Working it is as easy as breathing. And then we've got Tria Prima, which are the three primes of alchemy, and they are comprised of the same basis: salt, Quicksilver, and Brimstone. The uses of each are varied, but they can be combined, although again, we don't know what happens. In the real world, they are closely tied to the elements, how they represent the elements, and what they symbolize. Like I said, I have been going down some really cool alchemy rabbit holes as I learn all about these three primes. In the elemental runes and their purposes, a comprehensive guide to alchemy, I'm going to go through this one more time. We learn that during the first stages of ascension, equilibrium must be found, which is what I was talking about with the building rapport with the Quicksilver. Every alchemist has an affinity toward a certain path: Quicksilver, Brimstone, or Salt. And without the appropriate guidance and training, the path will claim them. So for instance, if Saeris had not gotten the proper training, like what she ended up getting from Folly in the books, she would not have been able to seal that Quicksilver, and it definitely would have claimed her and the whole realm. The individual must marry the Tria Prima into one within themselves if they are to truly master their power. We learn from Fisher's mother Adina that historically alchemists shied away from the second bow of the Tria Prima, Brimstone, not only because it was too powerful and difficult to wield, but because its only purpose seems to be linked with death and destruction. Unfortunately for all of us, Adina does not elaborate on how else it can be used, or at least Saeris does not tell the reader. I have already mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again. I find it extremely interesting that in real alchemy, sulfur, which is the equivalent to brimstone, symbolizes the soul, and we have so many soul references. So I'm curious how that might come into play. Now let's shift shift over to Alchemy shields and what we know of them. An Alchemy shield is a rune that solely belongs to the alchemist who has it. Every alchemist has one, but no alchemist will ever have the same shield. Think of it like a fingerprint. From what I can tell, the shield on someone's hand is the word to represent all the runes they have. Their collective magic is their shield. And then the shield is what channels the magic, like what Saeris did with creating her shield with the runes and then tapping into her Quicksilver magic from it, that then it goes boom. Saeris' shield is described as the most complex shield in the realm. It covers the whole back of her right hand with bold lines that twist around one another, forming a variety of knots of interconnecting runes that are woven one on top of the other. After Saeris seals the Quicksilver rune, she is able to project out this shield and use it as an energy weapon to blast her enemies. So last part of this library topic is I want to go over some of the runes that we know exist, but I do want you to keep in mind this is not a comprehensive list. We know Saeris has the runes for light, dark, silver, steel, earth, air, fire, water, salt, brimstone, and quicksilver. It's my impression that she does not need all of these sealed, only the Tria Prima. I do wonder too, because I see the 4 elements in there as well, earth, air, fire, and water. Those are directly related to the Tria Prima as well. Saeris will also be gifted a rune from the Hazrax for break and undo. This rune is not like a regular rune. The Hazrax calls it a silent rune, meaning it does not possess magic the same way the rest of them do. And it is already sealed to her soul and acts as a grounding rod for her current unsealed runes. I wish I could tell you more about what in the world that means. Now, shifting gears here to the other kinds of runes that we see in this world. So not the ones like on an alchemist's hands, but kind of these other meanings of runes that we see throughout the series. Kingfisher has tattoos that I'm assuming were gifted to him by the gods in some way, shape, or form. Vengeance, justice, and sacrifice. But remember what I said at the top of the section. Runes and tattoos are sometimes interchangeable words. Other runes we see or hear of are the runes on a Visius blade, but we don't know what they mean. Kingfisher draws a rune for break in the demon trap. The demon trap also has 1,000 other runes to create it into a demon trap in the first place. Some of the feeders have runes on them, which we can gather are from when they were alive. This was a big question that we had about these ones from Zilvaren and why there's a rune on one of them. Taylena has the runes for harmony, longevity, and 2 child marks. These are her mating ceremony tattoos. They picked them out and got them, so safe to say these are just tattoos, not magical runes. And that is what I can decipher about runes for you.
Let us close out this episode with Prancing Through the Snow with Onyx, where we discuss our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters. My goat watch continues with our second goat mention. Carrion dreams that he was turned into a goat.
We get another, she's not my girlfriend, okay? Mention from Kingfisher. I just love it so
I need
much.
to post that video. I need to find it and post it. This is so on par with Carrion that he has a big enough bed for 3 humans. Oh, the things that have happened in that bed.
I love how Fisher says Carrion looks like he has the pox because of all the sting welts he has, and then clarifies the kind you get from doing dumb stuff with your dick. This is such a Fisher to Carrion line, and I love it.
Carrion making fun of Fisher for using sarcasm, which according to him is the lowest form of humor, then following it up with, I'm rubbing off on you, which brings one of my favorite exchanges where Kingfisher volleys back for Carrion to not use his name and rub in the same sentence. Also from that exchange, Carrion saying that Kingfisher is not his type, and then Kingfisher calling out on the lie. They're bonding. I love it. And then it proceeds Carrion to actually say what his types are. And I love a bisexual king. Makes me so happy. Everything about Kingfisher meeting Hayden for the first time, specifically calling out that the boy was too fucking stupid to deal with directly. This is everything I wanted and more.
The iconic Carrion moment where he puts Fisher in his place because Fisher was judging him and treating him like the court jester. And Carrion retorts back where he's like, if that's how you're going to treat me, that's how I'm going to act because you are not willing to look beyond and see who I really am. Yeah. Quote, I survived here for over 1,000 years. Do you really think I'd have been able to do that if I couldn't pull myself out of a fucking hole? If at any point you underestimate me, then I'd say that was your mistake rather than mine, wouldn't you? I love that line from Carrion.
So good. When Kingfisher and Elroy are having it out and Carrion picks up a hammer and holds it like a gavel and tries to make them have peace.
And he's just not in the mood. He's like, I've had a really bad day, everybody. We are not going to do this.
Yes.
The way Elroy and Fisher both have never broken a promise to Saeris. Both of them are fiercely loyal to her in very different ways, obviously. And Fisher convinces Elroy he is not evil by insisting he promised Saeris he would bring her brother back. And then Hayden wanting to go to his sister, making that choice for himself when Elroy pushes back that at least he should have a say in leaving the only home he's ever known. And I also love the little tidbit where Saeris now lives, home.
Well, while we're talking about the only home he's ever known, here's a little peek into Nicole's history regarding that line. Because whenever I read it, I burst out laughing. One time on a road trip with two of my friends, we randomly decided to stop in Springfield, Indiana to visit Abraham Lincoln's old home. And Ranger Rosie was our girl. She was our guide. And over and over and over again, she kept saying, as we were doing a walking tour of Abraham Lincoln's home, that it was the only home Abe Lincoln ever known. And I swear, 50 times at that exact cadence she said it. And whenever I read anything even remotely close, all I can hear it is in Ranger Rosie's voice. So thank you, Ranger Rosie, for sticking with me even through Zilvaren.
What?
Then we have Saeris' inner monologue for Lorith during her fight with Belicon's men and how she pictures Lorith saying, quote, "Come on, Vane, you're selling us both short. You don't think I'm worth 5 of these fuckers?"
When Arias is all smug about how Saeris can't even seal her runes and how she cannot contain or control her power, and then he sees her newly sealed Quicksilver rune, and he whispers, "Fuck." And she's like, yeah, fuck is right.
Fuck.
I can visualize that so clearly, and I just get a really good chuckle out of it.
Also, shout out to Stella Bloom and how she says, "Yeah, fuck." Like, it's just so good. Oh my God. I love her.
And that's a wrap for today, friends. Thank you so much for listening to this Brimstone episode 4.
Next Monday will be episode 5, covering chapters 29 through 36. Let's go yell at Hayden and learn about Brimstone.
And I think that's also the one where we get the book. The Stargazers become the book.
Yes!
Whoa. You are not ready for me deep diving that part. I'm going to go absolutely feral.
We are going to go beat by fucking beat through that section. I'm so excited.
We would love to give the biggest warm welcome to our newest feral fan in the fan club. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome, Katie S. Thank you so much for being here and joining the feral fans.
And if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted out on the podcast and be shouted with all this love too, join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. Link is also in the show notes.
Thank you, as always, to our master librarian, aka our content researcher, Brooke, and of course, our executive producer, the co-host of Fantasy Fan Fellas, and our sanity manager, Hayden.
We are very active on social media with weekly trivia, book guides, and lots more. So please be sure to follow us on Instagram and / our TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube, pretty please hit that subscribe button to keep following along. And same goes for Fantasy Fan Fellas, to give them a follow at Fantasy Fan Fellas to keep up with what's next after season 1's deep dive of Mistborn.
While you're hitting buttons, do not forget to hit that 5-star button and rate this podcast on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. And last but certainly not least, share this episode with your fellow Brimstone fans. If you also want to throw a grape at Hayden, this is a great episode to send the friend who you'd go to the grocery store and get some grapes with.
All right, friends, thank you so much for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aha, yes, because fire makes vampires go whoosh up like Kindle. There's only even more.
You mean
even
kindling?
Kindling, yes.
Not the Kindle! Is Saeris prepared to deal with that aftermath after recording? Nope. After